I met a gypsy.
Well, we'll just fucking rip in then, mate. All right. Tyler Bereman, Gypsy Tales, appearance number. I don't know what you're up to, but you're up there now. You're
6 or 9.
Yeah, I like it. You know what, though? This one's disappointing, not doing it in person. This is our first one where we haven't been in person. We've got so lucky for the fact that, like, we've been able to be in person doing this shit every time.
Yeah, we really have, man. It's been a blessing to do that, but I guess we gotta drink our beers from a distance.
Yeah, boy. I'm on the Macca's soy
Coffee.
flat white right now. Lame.
It's all right. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding, folks. It's just water.
Yeah,
it's clear.
H2O, baby. All right, so I just finished watching Red Bull Imagination 2.0, and you go and change the game, baby.
Yeah, man. Just actually got back this morning. I've been gone for 44 days, and that's the longest stint I've ever been gone at one time. So I was actually back east working on a project. Actually, can't really talk about it too much, but long story short, I was doing some stunts for an upcoming show coming out. So yeah, that was super cool. I was there for a month, and it was cool, but I just wasn't on the ground. Like last year at Imagination, I was there the whole time. I was watching it come to life. I was envisioning these jumps over and over and over again, and by the time it came time to throw the gear on and hit them, I knew exactly what to do, exactly what gear, and just kind of, I don't know, I could feel it. So this year was a little gnarlier, just being away for that long and just contacting Jason over the phone and through FaceTime, and like, you know, FaceTime never gives stuff perspective. So by the time I actually was able to show up, I worked a week straight of nights, and then literally went to the hotel, slept and packed my stuff, slept an hour, and then flew straight to Kansas. So I was on a crazy schedule by the time I got there. And yeah, dude, I was pretty mind blown just to show up and see the course. Like, obviously last year we built what we did in 21 days, and you know, we kind of ran out of time to ultimately do what we wanted. So this year, like, the foundation of the course last year was still there, hadn't been touched for a year. It had a ton of weather on it, so everything, like, obviously compacted really well. And yeah, it was super cool to have that. But we also we came into it this year, like, you know, we wanted to add all those things that we didn't get to last year. So yeah, the whole overall vibe of the thing was just have so many options for a 5-minute run, more or less like our version of a dirt skate park. Like, you can't hit all the jumps in 5 minutes. Like, go and like kind of put your line together. And what's cool about this whole thing is it's free riding, man. Like, everyone has their own little like niche of it, right? So there's the jib style section of the course. The course this year was broke down into 3 zones. So the jib section, the big dog section, and then like the one side that was the K-Dub's Kingdom. So an ode to K-Dub because he's famous for his transfers, you know. So it was more or less like a dirt skate park, but there was options to go from one section to the other, and kind of just options to link it all together. So that was the whole overall vibe of this, was just to create so many options and how to put it together. And that's what was cool about it, was everyone's pretty good at their own little thing. So obviously, like, I felt pretty comfortable in the big dogs. Axel kicked all of our asses in the jib section. And then the K-Dub's Kingdom was just super creative. Like, you know, you could take the sides of all the jumps and you could look at one jump, just a double, and you could make 4 to 6 jumps out of one double. So the opportunities were unbelievably endless. And it was just cool to take, like, when I was running basically the riders meetings and kind of telling all these athletes, like, first and foremost, this whole thing is based off of content. We're here to like create the sickest content we can and show people how badass freeriding is, right? So that was the whole overall vibe. And then, you know, each person kind of like took what I said, and it was like they actually ran with it. Like, they were looking at side to jumps and transfers and this and that, and not just like a course, you know? So yeah, overall, I think everyone really use the course to its potential. Everyone kind of saw different transfers and lines, and I know there will be more content coming out showing some full pulls of the full runs and stuff, but that was the biggest thing this year. having twice as big of a course, twice as many riders, all compacted into 3 episodes was really hard to show. I mean, if you're showing 12 5-minute runs, that's a full feature film, and that's just one run. So yeah, we had 2 5-minute runs, and kind of sweet to see everyone put it all together. And the biggest thing, like, I didn't want to, you know, I built the gnarliest course. I did not want my friends to get hurt. Like, when we first showed up, everyone was pretty much like shit in their pants. Like, this is super gnarly. But everything that Jason builds, he builds with a purpose. So coming out of the turns, like, there's tight pockets and stuff, but it's all built to maximize your power. So the craziest thing about that whole course, the biggest jump's probably 150, 145, 150. The step down that I hit didn't even tape it out, but that thing was pretty big too. But every single jump was third gear or second or third. So yeah, for as big as it was built perfect to just maximize your power. So that was cool, man. Cool to see everyone kind of, you know, take it slow and overcome their fears. Like, every jump out there is one of the scariest, but one of the most fun. So yeah, just so cool to see everyone step out of their comfort zone, and everyone handled it. Last year we had 7 riders, and we ended with 4 for the final day because people got hurt. And this year we had 12 riders and only 2 crashes, 1 little low side by Double D, and then obviously Sipes stalled it in the air. That was pretty gnarly. So glad he walked away. And yeah, they don't call him the general for no reason. He came back and crushed it the next day. So and then I had 1 case, and pretty much set me back for 1 day. But other than that, like, to pull 12 people over there, I think there was 85 confirmed jumps on the course. To get everyone over all that in one piece was yeah, man, just icing on the cake for sure.
Yeah, dude, it was yeah, I mean, I feel like it's hard for people to know in the moment just how impactful that's gonna be for the sport. I think, you know, like, even like, you know, my bro Matty, like, Matty's not like a over the top dude, and he walked into the office yesterday and he's like, holy fuck, bro, you need to watch Imagination. And it's like, he's talking to somebody that, like, I've been around and seen a lot of that shit, you know, like, he knows where the level's at. And then for him to walk in and, you know, the shit he's dealing with every single day is fucking super cool stuff. And he walks in, he's just like, wait, stop, everything, stop what you're doing and watch this fucking video. And it's like, and that's the impact it's having on people now. But I think when we start playing this out in a few years' time, I think people are going to look back at this event in particular and be like, oi, this is where everything changed for free riding.
Yeah, most definitely. I think the whole thing with it, like, was all about creating content, obviously. So just to see and have all my friends there, like, some of the gnarliest dudes, a couple new kids, like, up and comers that you know, kind of making a name for themselves, and for every single person to leave and say it was the most fun they've ever had on a dirt bike. And, you know, when I have dudes like Axel and Colby and even Josh Hill and Sipes and Cole and all these dudes that, you know, racer backgrounds, and Colby and Axel, yeah, and Colby and Axel of being free riders, like, they've done a lot of really cool shit, and for them to leave and say that was the most fun week they've ever had is, like, makes it all worth it. And then on top of that, you get like Ronnie Feist and Matto and Twitch and Steve Hogglestein, like, Freeride legend, you know, and obviously Twitch being a Freeride legend too. And they all leave and they're like, dude, I've never seen anything like this. This was some of the baddest riding that we've seen, and just the craziest course. And, like, they were all leaving with, like, you know, just kind of super stoked, and it just made it all worthwhile. Like I said, I wore so many hats. There was so much on the back end that people don't see that went into this to make this happen. And you know, I'm there, I'm being host, I'm athlete, I'm helping produce and direct this, I'm running all the riders meetings to mediate between production and riders, and then I'm in captains meetings at the end of the day to tell them what our schedule's looking like, and so on and so forth. I'm in the media trailers watching all the footage afterwards and sitting there with those dudes while they're editing it. And, like, I was getting pulled in a million directions, but, you know, it makes it so worthwhile at the end of it when you see, like, what you've created, you know. And the biggest thing, you know, I've gotten a bit of pushback, I would say, a little bit, from just people think that it's a freestyle contest, and it's not. It's a free ride contest. So the way I look at it, like, you know, back in the day, and in my opinion, and I don't want people to take this the wrong way, because I'm really good friends with most of all the freestylers these days, and I love all those dudes to death, and I love everything they're doing and progressing the sport. But it's gotten to a point where the tricks are so gnarly, you have to have a certain ramp angle at a certain distance to do a certain trick, and that's kind of, in my opinion, why X Fighters kind of dwindled away a little bit, was because it got too structured, kind of, you know, and it took the fun out of it. So to be able to build a course like this, and it's not all about like the biggest trick. Like, yes, I think it'll progress into that, and we'll figure out some of these guys will figure out how to trick this stuff and whatever, but this is all about creativity, and it's your form of expression through a dirt bike. It doesn't have to be the biggest trick. It's just all about, like, the end of the day, having fun and like piecing it all together, creating cool content. And it doesn't have to be the biggest whip, doesn't have to be the biggest trick, like all that. It's just when dudes take the course and break it down like Ryan Sipes did, and he hit like, I don't even know how that dude remembered his line, because he hit the sides of this and that and that, and like went, if you were to take the track map and follow his line, it would had to look like a spider web over it afterwards, you know? So it's not all about the biggest trick. And believe me, like, with this whole thing, like, I wish I could just invite everybody, but I can't, you know. Little by little, I think we can get there with a lot of hard work. But the biggest thing I don't want to create a separation between freestyle or free riding, but it's just different. Like, I come from a racing background. I don't do tricks, and I've been able to create this path for myself by doing, you know, whips and creating content and whatever. So the biggest thing for me is creating that lane for the next generation, that it's not all about race results and wins, but you can go out there and create content and enjoy what you're doing, and ultimately, like, use your imagination. Like, no dream's too big, kids, you know? So the biggest thing is, just opening that up for the next generation, and you know, like, creating a lane for the kids coming up that are like me, that don't have to go out and do the biggest tricks, or don't have to go win a Supercross championship. Like, we're in this digital age of all creating content, and at the end of the day, you know, that you're not going to remember results from a few years ago in certain races and whatever. Like, the content lives forever. So it's ultimately what I'm trying to create. And, you know, there's so many guys that are so deserving of a spot, and I know, like, again, I'll get there. Hopefully we can open it up to more and more people, but this is all a massive work in progress. Like, we're learning as we go and trying to create something cool, and ultimately give other people opportunities that wouldn't normally get them. So that's kind of where I'm trying to push this in that direction. But you know, I get a lot of pushback. Like, I want to bring all my friends. I have so many friends that are so dope on a bike that should be there, but I just couldn't invite everybody at one time, you know? So eventually we'll get there, but how well it went from year 1 to 2, and we took what we learned from year 1 and kind of implemented that and tried to fix it and make it better for year 2, and just more or less for riders by riders. We're all, you know, we don't like getting put in a box. So having that creative freedom was the coolest part. Last year we had Red Bull Signature Series in there, and it was kind of like, you got to drop it this time for TV, so on and so forth. Well, this year it was like, okay, all the riders were able to go sit with the filmers the night before and tell them their line. So we had all the filmers, and we had a 5-minute break in between runs where the filmers could go move around and put the filmers in the best spot to ultimately get the best shots for the riders for their run. You know what I mean? So the ball was in our court. This is all about creating content, but ultimately, like, riding with your homies. And then at the end of the day, you have so over the 3 days of the 3 sessions of each section, we basically filmed each section and got it dialed, like, right away from each day. Filmed all the pieces and all the options from every section, and then once we got to day before finals, we opened up the full course and let people start putting it together. So those free ride sessions on each jump each day was just like the camaraderie between the riders, the vibe, like everything. And ultimately, when you're not put in a box and forced to go out there and beat your competitor at, say, X Games or whatever, you're gonna get the best riding when you have that, when you're having that much camaraderie and fun between each other. So ultimately, having those sessions, like, I think you saw the best riding, and then ultimately opening it up to an open course the last day and letting people put it all together. But the best part about it was we had like 5 judges on the judging panel judging our runs, but the riders also got to judge on all the rest of the riders, you know, so we're judging on each other. So our riders' votes mattered just as much as our legend votes, right? So it was so cool to have the camaraderie between everyone, and the riders are judging over the whole entire week when the judges are just judging on the runs, right? So everyone was paying attention to who's hitting shit first and who's, you know what I mean? It was just a super cool vibe, I think. And like, again, the biggest thing with this, it's a massive work in progress, and we were learning as we go. And I think we did a lot better from year 1 to 2, or a lot better year 2 from year 1. So again, we just keep learning as we go and trying to just keep making this better and better. And honestly, like, for how gnarly 2.0 was, could you imagine 3.0?
No. That's gonna be ridiculous.
My wheels are already turning, man. Me and Baker left there, and that was the first thing we did. We went and took a step back and just soaked it all in for a minute, and our wheels are already turning. Dude,
so you pretty much have laid out the 3-hour podcast for us. Well, now we just need to dissect everything that you said. There's so much good shit in here to talk about. But before we do that, you became the Travis Rice of 2 wheels this weekend, in my opinion. And I'll elaborate on that comparison, because the biggest thing that I saw with Travis Rice, from That's It, That's All to Art of Flight, you know, like that sort of span, like I feel like you're at the beginning of that journey that Travis Rice was on, right? And it got pretty clear pretty early on in the Travis Rice journey that it wasn't about him and his riding, that he was really about the sport and the other riders and then the next group of riders. And it seems like for these kind of sports, like the freeride type sports, it takes a guy to kind of put the sport on their back. And I think you're in the perfect position with Red Bull because of how inclusive they are to athletes, and you know the way that they commit to running events. And so like you've got the platform, and man, like it's been your deal ever since I met you. Like you were always the guy that was like down to get on a shovel, down to hit a jump first. It's like this version of you's been the same forever, but there's been this really slow evolution to now you're kind of you're like really hitting this part of the curve. And you could watch in those episodes, episodes 1 and 2, like you're the fucking guy that is like taking the risks by jumping these things first. Like you're towing this whole time it did seem like you were more about this event working than you winning this event. And that's a real Travis Rice style approach. And you look at this event, compared to the one that Travis run, like his backcountry event, it's like, man, you're doing for this sport what Travis Rice did for snowboarding. And mate, it's pretty special.
Well, thank you for the kind words. I really, really appreciate that. At the end of the day, man, like I've never been the dude that's won everything, and I'm competitive. I do like to win. It's nice, but the biggest thing on this whole, especially this year, so my whole plan when I took this to Red Bull 3.5 years ago, my whole plan was to just basically build an insane course, invite my friends, film it, come up with like a really cool content plan, show it to Red Bull and be like, look, you can turn this into a contest, right? So that was our goal. That was what we had planned going into year 1. Obviously COVID hit, and then about 6 weeks before, Red Bull Rampage had gotten canceled, and then Signature Series kind of stepped in and wanted to do a live show and a contest, and it put a lot of pressure on me. And I kind of was like I was very, very humbled that it was happening that quickly, but it was like, whoa, this puts a lot of pressure on me to have to produce, right? Because if I don't produce the first year, then it's over. So we ended up meeting in the middle. We did a delayed live. So we did the episodes while we were there, and then the signature series of the actual contest day came out like a few months later. So that was cool and all, but you know, I think there was a lot of work to be done and a lot of kinks to work through before you actually put a contest on it. Because at the end of the day, free riding is so subjective. Everyone has their own style and flavor to it, you know, and like it's so much different than anything else. So that was what I kind of wanted it to be. And then obviously, since we did the contest the first year, and I basically took the course of what it was in my last run last year, I started doing transfers, and what my original goal was and what I was trying to tell the riders, like, look, you don't have to look at it as just a single line and one run. Like, look at the sides of the jumps, look and be creative. Like, you have a 5-minute run, the start to finish of the course is only 2.5 minutes. Like, use that 5 minutes, get creative, you know. And I kind of was the only one to do that. And I think a lot of people are like, oh, like Tyler shouldn't have won. And I honestly hate the fact that I put together this whole thing in a contest and I won my own contest, because it looks bad. You're like, oh, Tyler won. Tyler set it up for himself. He won his contest, like, you know. And I didn't want that, and that's why ultimately I just wanted the best riders in our game to come. So that's why this year was like, honestly, it was like, I'm glad I didn't win, you know, like, and those dudes, trust me, those guys did not make it easy. Those guys absolutely crushed it, and they pushed the boundaries of what could be done there. So that's what was cool. But at the end of the day, I told all the riders, like, this is a quote unquote contest. Like, we're riding and jamming with our buddies all week long for the greater good of our sport and showing people how cool what we do is, right? So then it gets to the last day and you open it up and it feels a little more like a contest vibe, but like way more laid back. For riders, by riders. We got to put the filmers where we wanted, and ultimately just creating that like free ride vibe that's not, you know, people don't really see in moto. So yeah, man, I think super inspired by obviously Travis Rice, everything that he's done, slope style snowboarding, slope style mountain biking, Red Bull Rampage, like pretty much all these, like a BMX park, Fest series, all this stuff. Like Fest series was a huge catalyst to this whole thing, because I've been to Fest series events for years and ridden my dirt bike with the mountain bike guys, and it's just such a cool vibe. They ride all week, they film, they get the best shots, they put out a video, and then all the riders vote on who won, best trick, best crash, like all this stuff at the end of the week. So just that vibe and that camaraderie ultimately pushes our sport in the right direction, because it's a friendly rivalry pushing people to be their best, right? So when you have those sessions and stuff like that, it's like ultimately the best riding is going to come. So that's what I was just trying to create and pound in these guys' heads. Like, it's free riding. Like, I might hit the biggest jumps, but Jimmy Hill might do mini flips on everything, but it's all a form of expression and like how cool what we do is. So ultimately at the end of the day, to go back to like the Travis Rice thing, like I'm just trying to push this in the right direction of creating an avenue for other kids. Cause like, if you look at mountain biking, like all those guys got over free FMB World Championship Series, like slope style events. So they created free riding and Fest series, and like obviously Rampage was a thing. So like it's another outlet for these guys, and they kind of get over one certain thing, and like just being able to go out there and create something cool and like a course or something and just have your form of expression through your bike is like, it's key. So yeah, man, I'm just really stoked that I'm pushing it in the right direction. And ultimately, like, this whole thing, like, people think probably I'm getting paid a stupid amount of money to do this. I paid myself as much as I paid the rest of the riders. I didn't make anything else on top of it. I do this purely because I love it and I want to push this sport in the right direction and just show the kids, like, create a lane for these kids coming up. It's not about just being number one and having to ride for Mitch Payton or Roger DeCosta or whatever. Like, you can have other avenues, and you know, there's so many kids you see come through and they're so gnarly at amateurs, and they get to the pros and they just don't really figure it out. And like, you know, it's like you see just having guys like Cole Seeley and Josh, and like obviously those guys have had amazing careers and then coming back out, but they're having the most fun that they've ever had, and that's all ultimately what it's about. So yeah, man, just so stoked it went as well as it did. And I know we're a year out, but my wheels are turning on 3.0 and how to make it better. And you know, I need people, I really, really need people to just stand there for 1 hour on the floor or next to that course just to see the magnitude of it. Yeah. You know, as well as I do, footage never gives anything justice. When you're standing on the hill at Rampage, yes, it looks gnarly, but until you stand on one of those cliffs and look off the cliff, it is fucked up, straight up. Like, excuse my French, but it is gnarly. And that's a similar vibe of like going to Imagination when you stand on the floor, and I bring all my friends out for the first time, and the impression of like everyone just went from like super stoked and smiling to like, oh my gosh, like what did we get ourselves into, you know? But that was the biggest thing for me, is I was pulling everyone over the jumps. I was taping all the jumps out. Like, look guys, I know this looks gnarly, but it's built perfectly. Just trust yourself. If any one of these jumps were out in the hills, we wouldn't bat an eye to them. So that's like the biggest thing, was just getting everybody through it safely and being comfortable with it. And yeah, like the camaraderie of me, like I'm so freaking stoked to see my friends throw down and then turn around and like get hyped up to go throw down yourself, you know? So that was the biggest part, like the camaraderie and us being mic'd up. Like it just gives you that feel like you're there, you know what I mean? And like just that was something to be said about that. You don't see that a lot in moto, and just the camaraderie that we had, and like, you know, just people's past beefs and whatever, and bringing all these guys together, and ultimately everyone had the most fun week ever and put their egos aside, and it was all about like enjoying your dirt bike and facing your fears. So yeah, man, I'm just so incredibly stoked it went so well, and I'm stoked to be home in my home bed.
Oh, dude, yeah, I can't even imagine. That is a big stint to be away. It must feel so surreal to be able to like have the impact that you wanted to have. Like, because I know that this is what you. Fuck. Oh, you there? Oh, it just cut out for me. Sorry.
No worries.
Can you hear me?
I got you.
Oh yeah, sweet.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you.
Okay.
Yeah, because I know that this is the impact that you wanted to have, and I know that you wanted to do these kind of events, and I know that this has been just such like a bigger picture aspiration for you. So it must feel crazy to actually be pulling off the stuff that you said you were going to do to other people, and that you said that you were going to do to yourself and to Red Bull. Like that has to be a crazy feeling, to be living in the thing that you wanted to be living in.
100%. I think the biggest way I look at things is under promise and over deliver. And ultimately in my head, I knew how I wanted it to go, and I worked my freaking ass off to do that all week, and running in a million directions, to the point of having to like, all right guys, like you got to leave me alone. I got to put the athlete helmet on now. You know what I mean? I got to turn in from producer, host, all this stuff to, I got to be an athlete now. So, yeah, it was pretty crazy just to ultimately, like, you could probably see in the episodes, I towed everyone, where it was 85 jumps, I probably hit maybe 80 of them. And first to tow everyone over them. And then I was like, okay, like you got to hit it in this gear. Like, you know, the whole moto lingo, like this gear, like, you know, and everything was exactly like that. So as soon as I would do it, and I'd be like, all right, you want to tow? Follow me. You want to tow? Follow me. So I did that all week to just, you know, and for me to get through all those jumps as good as I did with only one case, and like pull everyone over it. And then obviously I twisted my ankle pretty bad when I cased that jump, and I had to take the full day off on Thursday. And the fact that I was kind of, you know, when I'm in pain, I get frustrated, and it like, I was kind of a little bummed out, like, fuck, like, am I going to not be able to ride tomorrow? I was in that much pain. Like, I'm tripping that I'm not going to be able to ride for the contest. And I just worked so hard to get to this point, and I did all these jumps over all the week. And I ended up, luckily my physical therapist, Marco from Red Bull High Performance, was there, and he worked on me the whole day, and I kind of was able to take myself out of the heart of it on Thursday, the day before the contest. I was able to take myself out of the heart of it and just kind of sit up in the tower and just observe, take myself out of it and like take a step back and see what I created. And just the fact of like having that day was just a blessing for me. I think like it re-fired me up for the next day. I knew I was in pain. I could barely walk, but once I put the boot on and the adrenaline rolls, like and there's no stopping you, and I worked this hard to get to this point. So when I set my mind to do something, I'm going to do it at all costs. So I was just stoked to be able to get through it in one piece and still land on the podium and put the line together that I wanted. I did make a few mistakes, and I think if I cleaned it up, I would have been a little closer to those guys. But man, I was just stoked to do everything that I kind of wanted and knock off all those jumps and get everyone through it in one piece was like, it really couldn't have gone any better. Like I had an idea of how I wanted it to go in my head, and it exceeded my expectations tenfold. And just straight up, like the whole thing was like, it was this whole thing came out of my fucked up imagination, and it exceeded my expectations. So it's like beyond my imagination. Like it was, I just can't even put it into words how thankful I am that everyone got through it in one piece, and everything went as smoothly as it did. And I think so far the reaction's been really cool. And man, this is why I do what I do. The juice is worth the squeeze.
Yeah, man. Nah, dude, I'm fucking super proud of you. Like, just to see the full trajectory of the last 10, 11 years, man, it's just such a crazy journey that, I guess it's pretty well documented. Like, there's a lot out there on it, but I think this is like a really cool point to just stand, for me anyway, like as your mate, just to stand back and be like, look at what this motherfucker's done in 10 years. Like it's a career, dude. Like that is a career worth of 100%. Work that you've put in.
If you were to ask 10-year-old me if I would have gotten this far, I would have told you that you were high. But at the end of the day, like, as you said, having the Red Bull platform, like I'm now in the position to like have that platform to have my voice heard, and that's the biggest thing. Like I want to create something rad for freeriding. It's not racing, it's not freestyle, it's like whatever you want it to be. It could be out ripping trails, it could be like Ryan Sipes. Like as much as he's a racer, he's a freerider. He does flat track, he does enduro, he does motocross, he does supercross, he's now doing imagination. Like only thing the dude hasn't done is ridden a street bike that I know of. Hill climb, he's done everything. So like, but that's free riding. He's enjoying it. Like, look at him. He's one of the eldest in the field there, and he's having the most fun. So it's just ultimately like free riding is the coolest thing ever, because it's all just a form of expression. And your dirt bike is your paintbrush, and you go out there and you do whatever you want. So yeah, man, it's just stoked to be able to be in that position to push dirt bikes in the right direction.
Well, there is a renaissance that's happening with riding in general. I mean, like even for me riding, like I got my 125 now, and I'm doing these 125 races, and then I bought a vintage bike and I'm doing vintage races, and then we got the Transmoto series that we go and do like 8 or 12 or 6 hour races as a team. And like and then the other day, you need to ride a fucking adventure bike. Have you ever been on one of those things? Like,
I have ridden one a couple times.
There is so much shit to do on two wheels now, man. Like, it's actually psycho. For sure. Like, I think I'm gonna get a trials bike.
I know we've been talking about it. I know we've been talking about it for a few years now, but we got to go do that trip in Thailand through the hills.
Yeah. On
the adventure bikes. Looks so fun.
Yeah, and I think that, like you said, Ryan Sipes, like the general, like he can do anything, man. And then you got Josh Hill, that is one of the dopest dudes on a dirt bike right now. You got Axel doing what he's doing. You got Colby doing what he's doing. You got Justin Mumford. You got Cole Seeley's doing his thing. Like there is a real renaissance where people have stepped outside of the traditional boxes that, were kind of, all right, you're a racer, you're a this, you're a that. Like everyone kind of identified with these labels, and now it's like it's almost like that's kind of not the way that people want to go now. It's like people want to just be like, nah, man, I'm just a dirt bike rider, I'm just a motorcyclist.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, the biggest thing is people are at home, like, chomping at the bit to see this stuff, And I feel like you can relate to what we're doing a little more, being an average Joe, riding it on the weekends, like, kind of relate to what we're doing a little more than just hammering motos and laps and being a champion and the double backflips. And, it's just, and again, like, I never wanted like be doing this and creating this and like make it think like, oh, I'm doing this because I don't like racing or I don't like freestyle. I love absolutely everything to do with two wheels, but this is just what has now gotten me to this spot. I've been able to create my own path and do it how I want it on my own terms, and it's now gotten me to this point to now I have this opportunity and this platform to have my voice heard, and ultimately, like I said, just pushing moto in the right direction. So, yeah, man, I'm honestly at loss for words. I'm pretty speechless. I'm still like, the adrenaline come down is real. I'd say I've told a bunch of people, but it's like a double-edged sword. You do something, you put your mind to something, you put that much work into something, and you have a week straight of the craziest adrenaline of all time. Yeah. But then to get home and then it's all just like a huge come down, and then you're like, oh, like what's next? And that's kind of the way I've looked at it. Every open door has led to another open door, and all these opportunities have led to another opportunity, and just, things happen pretty quickly. I got to tend to like take a step back sometimes and realize that like, I was able to last year do, and this just sounds like I'm like tooting my own horn, but I'm just taking a step back and realizing like I did the ducked out video with Matto, and then I did the one shot video, and that earned an Emmy, a sports Emmy, and then I did Imagination 1.0, like all in 1 year, just things just back to back to back, and you're just like constantly on the go. So sometimes you got to slow yourself down, take a step back. But again, like I said, it feels like a double-edged sword. Like I just got home today and I'm like, oh, like, fuck, what am I going to do next? Yeah,
so, yeah, you're fucked up.
That's the thing. Like, you're never satisfied. Like, you're always wanting to keep pushing, and there's something to be said about that. Like, once you're content and complacent, then that's when failure starts to happen. So, just always striving for more, man. Team never give up.
Yeah, you're a fucking psycho. That's just, it's pretty certified at this point.
Hey, it takes one to know one.
So, one of the cool things, so there's a couple cool little takeaways while it's still fresh, that last edit's still fresh in my mind. First thing is, I actually think that the bigger jumps, like these big jumps that you guys are hitting, they actually make riders' style look different. Like, it's really separates the style. Like, you can see like a TB jump, there's like more time in the air, like you can really see more of your style. And then you see Colby hit a ramp, you see Axel, you see I feel like sometimes the shorter jumps, it makes riders look the same, but the way that this course was, it actually accentuates what you guys are doing on the bike. I think just straight jumps even look cooler when the jump's so big, because like you're exposed to more body language.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, the bigger the jumps, it's, most people aren't super comfortable on them. So to be able to like take those whips and have just more airtime to accentuate your whips, or just hang them out a little more, get under them a little longer, like it's all super cool. You tend to like, you look at whip contests these days, like 75 ramp, it's always the same, and they're like, whip has gotten to a point that it's like, it's almost impossible to judge. Like, everyone, it could be their day. Any given rider, any given day could go out and win. Like, you got 3 different whips and everyone's tossing, and it's so like, minute differences, and it's so hard to judge. So having something like this and bigger jumps and more options, like it gives the riders like, just more hang time, more time to do cool shit. So like, again, like, there's anywhere from 75 foot jumps on that course to 150, and you can, the biggest thing about telling all the riders, like, you can link it all together. Like, it's not, this whole thing's not about like you have to hit all the biggest jumps. Like, whatever you see goes. The only rule is there are no rules. Like, whatever you see goes. It's all about creativity. So like, if you don't feel comfortable hitting the 140 and you want to session this, like, you can hit one jump over and over and over and do all your bag of tricks in 5 minutes or whatever you want to do. But like, it's just all about like creativity, and there's a little bit of everything for everybody out there. And yeah, just there's something to be said about Jason Baker and his build crew, like, having this whole thing is free riding, and he's like always in the confines of building a test track, or it has to be 3 foot, 5 foot, 3 foot, and 12 foot, 12 feet apart in the whoops, and 7 feet tall, and everything's got to be perfect, and this is like, for him, this was a free build. Like, he could literally just do whatever he wanted, and that was the coolest part. And with that comes progression, with that comes creativity, and it's just, yeah, man, just so cool to see, just to sit back and watch it all afterwards. And like, yeah, I just want to freaking go back there and rent that spot from Adam and build me a barn right in the middle and never leave. You'll never see me again. I'd be in the hills of Kansas looking like a fucking, I don't even know, gingerbread man or something. Fried.
Dude, you know what's crazy, man? Think about just Jason Baker meeting Adam LaRoche like 5 years ago. What that's done for motor. Like, there's all these just crazy little elements that come together, right? Like, if those two never met, where the fuck are we right now?
Yeah, so that's the craziest thing, man. Like, the places, like, if you really put your heart and soul into something, and just two wheels, that's what I've put my heart and soul into. It's crazy how things just tend to happen. Like, this whole thing just more or less fell into my lap. Like, I went down to Baker's facility, Moto Sandbox. I was filming my first Red Bull edit in 2018, I believe. And it was right before I got hurt in Australia. So I was down there, and he's like, where we did the Dungey cornfield project, I have this one hill with elevation in it. And to back that story up a little bit, the only hill in Kansas, the highest elevation in the county, and we doubled it with the quarter pipe. But to back it up a little bit, so when I went down there, I kind of asked Jason like how he had met Adam, and the best part about it was Adam was a Major League Baseball player. Dude had 255 home runs and 852 RBIs. Like, he is a badass American hero, So he was in his contracts when he was playing baseball. He couldn't ride, he couldn't snowboard, he couldn't do all that stuff. So first thing that dude did when he retired was went and bought 2 motorcycles and 2 snowboards. Said he went straight to Breckenridge, Colorado, and hit the biggest jump he could see on a snowboard and just landed directly on his back. His back's never been the same since. But he bought the bikes and hit up Jason Baker through Instagram. And, Jason's getting hit up. He's like world renowned for his building skills. So he's getting hit up all the time. And he finally kind of scrolled past it and then went back to it and like ended up going out there. And he built Adam a full Dream Tracks built vet track. So then Adam, they kept in contact, and Adam's one of those guys, when you meet him, he treats you like family, and it feels like you've known him your whole life. So it was just something to be said about that. So then they ended up doing the Dungey project, and then fast forward, a year later, I was filming with Jason, or filming at Jason's facility. He told me about the place. He said we needed to go do a site check, and then it kind of just slowly turned into what it did over the next couple of years. And when I first went out there and had the site check and met Adam, it was like this. There's something to be said about this place, of having the barn and like all the rooms and all the beds in the barn and the batting cage and the just having everyone together. And this is his home. Like, he obviously has his house on the property, but this is his home, and the fact that he's opening it up to everybody for good times is like, there's something to be said about that. So I ended up doing the site check, came back out, and he was fully down to kind of let us tear up his sacred land there, and he was just all about it the first year. So fast forward to the second year, and there's more riders, more people. We brought all these dirt bike hooligans in there, and he was just so cool, man. And just the fact of like meeting him, like it just kind of all just fell into my lap. But I just earned, like I gained a homie for life. Like he now feels like family. You know, we got him to come out to Day in the Dirt with his family last year, and he raced Day in the Dirt. And like, you know, it's just that there's one, I tell myself like, yeah, I go there at least a couple times a year just to go hang out, go hunting with Adam, just to go hang out, because he's just that cool of a dude, and so knowledgeable and so humble and so soft spoken, and just, yeah, man, American hero right there. So the fact it just fell into my lap is unbelievable. And like, honestly, none of this would have been possible without E3 Ranch and Adam and Jen LaRoche. So massive ups to the LaRoche family for taking us in.
Man, they're the definition of good people. Like, it doesn't get more good people than those guys, because obviously I was there for the homegrown thing, and like, yeah, that place is crazy. Like, the barn is crazy, the whole setup is insane, and then to just have those people, like that family, just be like, make yourselves at home, guys, and like that always become, I know exactly what it would have been like. They come down, they bring a bunch of food, they're cooking stuff in the barn, like, man, yeah, honestly, that does not get much better than those guys.
No, and you know, the whole thing with like this imagination deal, like with some creativity, like, you know how many plots of land are like that around the world and rolling hills, and like with some creativity, you can take this anywhere in the world, right? But there's something to be said about the Kansas and E3 Ranch. When you get through those gates, it's just like the world stops, you know, and they're just so cool and so inviting, and like just the vibe of being able to go out to the course and then come back at the end of the day, and they have like the best meals catered for us, and just, you know, the environment of everyone staying together and playing knockout and basketball at night, and in the batting cage, and playing ping pong, playing pool, like watching videos and you know, from the week, like in the barn. Like, it's just, dude, there's something to be said about that, and like it would be hard to kind of replicate that anywhere else. And I think obviously, like, with how the Fest Series guys and stuff do it, they'll get an Airbnb and all the riders will stay together, and then they'll film the course. And I think you could definitely have that vibe, but something to be said about Kansas and just, you know, how inviting they are, and like, you know, just such American, like humble American heroes, and like they don't make them like that anymore, you know. So just couldn't be more stoked to meet Adam and become friends with him. And thank you, Adam, Jen, E3 Ranch for everything, because none of this would have been possible without you guys.
Yeah, definitely, man. So with one of the you kind of like touched on a little bit before, but you talked about like riders with beef. So you got like Axel and Colby, obviously there's past kind of issues there. One of the things that I think is so dope about Imagination is you kind of can't not have each other's back out there. Like, if there was like one rider that was like wanted to be a dickhead because that rider didn't like that rider, well, you've kind of fucked the whole program because it seems like you guys all literally need each other's help just to stay alive out there. So there's a certain part of like the format and the track the course that you created that kind of forced these beefs to get squashed, because it's like, hey, Axel needs Colby to literally stay alive.
Yeah, and it was cool, man, like to be the one to kind of mediate that. And it's just like, at the end of the day, we're all kids doing what we love, man, chasing our dreams, and they're two of the top dogs. And like, I think after this week of everyone seeing them riding together, it's like, man, that is like second to none. You got two of the top dogs in free riding feeding off of each other. And like, you know, at the end of the day, like, you show up to this place and all egos go out the door. You're literally just there to help your homie, and like, we don't want anyone to get hurt. And of course, you know, there's a rivalry there. Like, comes down to contest day, and like one person sees someone do one thing, they want to outdo it, and that's just how it goes. But to be the one to kind of, you know, ultimately be like, look guys, I want the best guys here, and like, just put the bullshit to the side and just trust me. Once you guys come here and you ride this for a week straight, and we'll be obviously the content, the free ride days of just like pushing each other for the greater good is like everything's going to come from it. And it ultimately, like you saw Colby's interview, like he's never really ridden with Axel like too much, you know, obviously their beefs and whatever, but to see them together and riding together and like, dude, it was insane. Like people are chomping at the bit to see that, you know. And ultimately social media, it's like it creates a divide and people think what they want to think, and it's Colby or it's Axel or whatever, but like fuck all that. Like we're riding dirt bikes and we're giving you guys like this is the best dudes in the best place, like enjoying it together. So ultimately I think it was cool to be able to get them both out, and it seemed like, of course, they're rivals now, you know, they've always been rivals, they've had their beefs, but at the end of the day, like you can kind of put that shit aside and enjoy your dirt bike with your friends of ultimately creating content. And it's like, man, if like at times if like we could just all work together, like we could be nonstop creating dope shit, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like those guys, there's an element where you look at some classic rivalries, dude, like Andy Irons and Kelly Slater. You know, like there is something to be said about not liking the dude, though. You know, like for Colby to hate on Axel, like I get it. You know, like if you could see like the facility that Axel has, like that, and that would be like a pretty good drive for a guy like Colby, you know, like I'm sure Colby always has felt like the underdog. He always feels like the black sheep. Like that's even how he dresses, you know. So it's like there's got to be an element of kind of fuel that comes from that rivalry. So it does make sense.
Yeah, and every sport needs that rivalry, right? And we're basically, this is a more or less like a new sport. I mean, it's been around for years, but we're kind of really taking it and making it grow. But I think, you know, every sport needs that. And I can't say that these guys like left this week and they're going to be best of friends now, but it's cool to kind of bridge that gap and be like, look, like we're all kids doing what we love. And I think, you know, we're getting older, we're getting more mature. I just turned 30, and you know, both of them are a few years younger than me, but you know, getting older, having these sponsors, like it's, you know, you kind of got to put that stuff aside sometimes and not let like social media like ultimately fuel this stuff. Because at the end of the day, like, yeah, they weren't the best of friends, but it's not like they were like, you know, they'd had times where they've had some run-ins, but like they're not going to show up and just want to fight each other every time they see each other. It's not like that, you know. But every sport needs that rivalry, and every sport like fuels off that rivalry. So it's cool to have it, and it's cool to be able to kind of like let them put it aside and put the egos out the door and just ultimately like enjoy what we're doing and live in the moment, you know. So yeah, at the end of the day, it's still going to be, they're still rivals, and they're still going to be head to head for years to come. So it'll be cool to see it play out and whatnot. But I'm just stoked to kind of be that one to kind of be like, all right, guys, put it aside, leave your ego at the door outside of the E3 Ranch gate, and just let's just enjoy, you know. And it was cool, man. Like, you know, both of them hanging out in the barn and just kind of talking over stuff at the end of the runs, like, oh, that was sick, like, good job, like, you know, all that stuff, like that camaraderie is like what it's all about. Like, I hate the, you know, you need the rivalries, but I hate the like, oh, fuck him, his side or his side. Because I'm never like, I will not inherit anyone else's beef. If you have a beef with him, then cool, that's your deal. Like, I don't give a shit, you know. So at the end of the day, I'm just stoked to have them both there and just watch them do what they do. It was cool, man. It's cool. They literally took what I created and what I was ultimately pushing forward to push it, and the progression of creativity and all that, and they fed off each other, and they absolutely like blew it out of the water, and that's why, like, you know, that's why the rivalries are cool. But at the end of the day, I made it like friendly. Yeah. For the time being. And
yeah, for now. Yeah, so it's cool too that the energy drinks are able to like get out of the way as well, because at the end of the day, it's like you fucking have a Supercross main event, you got every energy twisted tea. You got the whole fucking you got the whole bar there, dude. You know what I mean? Like, so it's it sort of doesn't make sense to, you know, for like the Monster Axel thing. Like, that was a bummer last year. I don't know what the politics went into, you know, like Axel not being there last year or whatever, but like, if you're going to hold a freeride event ever, you need Colby Raha, you need Tyler Bereman, and you need Axel Hodges. Like, you can't have a legitimate freeride event without all those three dudes, and they're three dudes represented by three different energy drink companies.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that was the biggest thing for me of, like, you know, I'm on the back end of how many conference calls and so much shit that I went through to make this all happen. Like, that was the biggest thing. Like, you know, I don't want it to be like, oh, this is a Red Bull event, like it can only be Red Bull guys. Well, if it's a Red Bull event and only Red Bull guys, we'd only have two dudes because they don't, or three guys or whatever right now, because they don't really have a ton of guys. But if you look at it, like, all the free riders that are free riding right now are mostly all Monster athletes. So the fact that I was like able to bring, you know, Vicky, Josh, Axel, and then like have Colby and Rockstar, and like have all these other things, like, it doesn't matter about what brand you ride for or represent. Like, I ultimately want the best riders there. So I think it's cool. I'm really, really, really stoked that Red Bull saw me out on that. And I think if you look at other, you know, action sports and like Red Bull Rampage, and they got every energy drink through the board because it's ultimately just for the sport and not for the company, you know what I mean? So yeah, man, just really stoked on them being able to do that and listen to me on that kind of stuff. And then ultimately, like, you know, we basically only had a budget to have 10 guys, you know. It's on the back end, there's a lot of money that goes into it, between like travel for the athletes and catering and the lodging, and like there's a lot of overhead that goes into just one single athlete, let alone 10. And you know, I pushed really, really, really hard on the back end to try to get two, like, more or less wild cards. So the new blood kids of Billy Bear Carpenter and Christian Dresser. Christian's 19, Billy's like 24 or something, and just some kids that like are absolutely crushing it. And Billy works a 9 to 5 and rides on the weekends and crushes it. And then Christian's just, you know, a new kid coming up, moved out here from Florida, and just to be able to give kids like that the opportunity that they'd never get anywhere else, and ultimately hopefully open up some doors for them, was insane. So the fact that I was able to push for that, and then these guys, they showed up, and under the pressure of cameras and lights, camera action and structure and all that, like, there's a lot of pressure there, and they showed up and they handled it. Like, Billy had the biggest smile on his face the whole time. He's just like, I feel like a kid at Disneyland. And you know the best part about Billy coming? He faked COVID with work so he could get out of work for the week and still get paid, and then came and showed up and freaking ripped all week, and then texted us when he left, and he's like, dude, thank you so much for the most insane week I've ever had. He's like, now I just got to figure out how to go back and tell COVID why, or like explain to COVID why I have a mean tan and a gnarly pimp limp, you know, from the weekend. So it's like something to be said about that. Like, dude's out there like grinding. He's a blue collar worker, just freaking coming out and like enjoying dirt bikes in his spare time. But ultimately, like, that's why I wanted to bring kids like this to create an opportunity, you know what I mean? And there's so many kids deserving of it, you know, and I think we'll get there little by little, but people just have to understand from the outside looking in how much goes into this, and how much on the back end, and like how much overhead it is for just one athlete, you know? So ultimately, like, I want to turn it into something like a you know, a Rampage where you can have 20 athletes or whatever. But even Rampage to this day, like, there's some of the gnarliest mountain bike dudes that don't even get into Rampage, you know? Ultimately, we can't just have everybody. And there's a lot of dudes that I have on the radar, and I just want to give people the opportunity. So, you know, ultimately, like, it's, you could spin this so many ways. Like, this is freeriding. We can work together as a whole. Like, when these freeride mountain bikers started doing freeriding, and before like Rampage started, you know, now there's more or less, they got like a freeride like union. So like all the freeriders like band together, and there's like a board, and the board gets to like help call out athletes and like gets to do all this stuff. So there's so many things you can do, and it's all for the greater good of freeriding, you know? So, you know, you can spin it with moto as any way you want, and little by little we'll get there, man. Like I said, this is a massive work in progress, and we're learning as we go. And so far, all the riders and everyone involved has been overly stoked, and then I think we're just, you know, little by little we'll kind of keep pushing it in the direction we want it to go. And yeah, man, just stoked to be in the place of having the platform and having the opportunity to do this, man. It's just like, I don't know, never in a million years would I ever thought that I've been able to do what I've done and have this opportunity to ultimately create something this cool. So stoked.
And you're in the position too where it's like, remember freestyle sort of when it first started, and you had like the racer guys they were kind of racing, and then a couple of them converted, and then it wasn't until you had, Deegan's got a course at his backyard, Link Ogle's got a spot, and then it's like, then you had guys that were just going and sessioning that over and over. Like, there is a certain amount of infrastructure that you have to build on something like this for it to become, like, to get used to doing it and to become more of a normalized thing, and then that can turn into its own industry. So like you said, you are involved in a process. Like, this is going to take a long time, and you know, those guys that you mentioned, and you've probably got a bunch more guys in mind as well. Like, dude, you know, even there's some guys over here like Louis Woods, like, fuck, he would send it over there as well, you know. Like Dylan Long. So like there's guys kind of everywhere that, you know, the next 5-10 years this thing can really start to like expand out.
Absolutely, you know, and I think there's you know, some dudes from Europe, there's Aussie guys, and you know, I really do, you know, as this thing grows, like, I want like a dude like Sheeny, you know, like Sheeny's got mad bike skills, and like he's got the gnarliest bag of tricks, and to ultimately, like, he's one that you're not going to have like a certain ramp at a certain angle. Like, he'll kind of like figure it out. Yeah. He's got the bike skills. And that's the coolest part about all these old freestyle contests and gravity games and all this stuff. Like, there were gnarly courses, and they had to go up and like show up and figure out what they could do on those jumps, right? But now it's like X Fighters kind of turned into like, this ramp needs to be at 45 feet and propped at this angle to do this trick, and every rider had all their bag of tricks, and they all needed the ramps different. And it ultimately, like, the whole production crew was just like, F this, like, this isn't even cool anymore, you know? It's like completely taken that like creativity out of it, and it's all more science, which is, you know, it's cool, it's super cool, but it's just, I don't know, this takes you back to the roots of it, and just straight up like free riding. Like, that whole course, Imagination course, is all features that I love to hit from everywhere, you know, from small techie stuff to transferring stuff on a track to the big 140s like dune jumps to, you know, the quarter pipe to like wall rides, like jib stuff. Like, it's just a combination of everything that we love to ride from all over the place, like man-made in one course, you know? So that's ultimately like, man, sky's completely the limit on this, and how creative do you want to get, you know? And this is where it's ultimately like what I'm creating. Like, I want all these other riders, like, all their input matters just as much as mine. I want to take their input and like learn how to make this better, you know, take their input on what would be their dream build or their dream feature, and like add in all this stuff. And like, honestly, like, sky's the limit. I think we just tapped into this, like, year one being a crazy course, but only a 21-day build, and that course sitting there, and then ultimately like adding all these new things to it to ultimately do what I set out to do, make a dirt skate park with so many options that it's like a bit overwhelming, you know? So, but you got to all put it together more or less like a skate run or a BMX park run or whatever, you know? There's so many ways you can spin it, and at the end of the day, it's all based on content too. So, yeah, I think we did really well with that on second year, but just all learning as we go still.
Yeah.
Work in progress.
So the production wise, the biggest thing that stood out to me was the way that you guys captured audio. And so I know what it takes to do that. And that basically, by Wes and the crew miking up everybody, they essentially signed themselves up for about 9 hours a night of going through audio, like just raw audio and fucking yep. It would have been a nightmare, dude. So the commitment level, though, because that added so much, man. Like the genuine reactions, like they didn't have to wait. It's not like, hey, like just roll again on that. That shit was so gnarly. Like it was so immersive. So the cinematography, like the level that Wes took it to, like, man, it is. And then to turn around 3 20-minute episodes, so we're looking at an hour of content plus all the social media, like they're still there now editing. Well, actually no, Wes just got back, but it's like they had, you know, like Will Posey, man, he didn't leave the fucking screen. Like it is that's a documentary in itself, the production that goes into making that, and to be just bang bang.
Oh yeah, that's there, dude. There's something to be said about that, man. Like I said, I've said it multiple times. There's so much work that people don't see that goes into it. These guys, like you mentioned, that's 10 hours of audio to go through in one day. Not only that, they have 10 hours of footage too. So there was a full media team. Yeah, in just one day, 1 hour session, one day, like has so much amount of footage. And there's one person pulling selects, one person kind of dropping them into a timeline, like building the story. Like these guys, like they were the unsung heroes. Like obviously you said Will Posey and B-Town and Luke Parmeter, like all these guys like behind the scenes coming in and just, you know, Chase Stallo, and they're building the story with them for them to edit it together. And like, you know, just unbelievable amount of work. These guys literally like 12 days straight of 20-hour days, literally getting 4 hours of sleep to get back and straight back to that edit bay, like this little trailer on site there by the course, all trash bags over all the windows, blacked out, just hammering content. And that was the thing, like people at home are like, oh, like, so the way we did the content rollout, we dropped the first build episode and then kind of let the hype build, right? So we were there over the week. We were letting the writers post their Instagram stuff and build the hype. And then as soon as it came down, like we finished Friday, the contest, and then the second episode came out on Tuesday, and then the third on Wednesday. So it built that hype, and then hit them with them both back to back. And I think it was really cool. But like you said, those guys, they needed that week in between to build 2 more 20-minute episodes. Like they're building full-on films, straight up, like with all that stuff and so many layers over this timeline. The graphics over the top of it as well. And everything, dude, just everything. And having to have everything done a day and a half early to go to color and sound and go to Keith White and do his whole color and sound correction and then get it back. And it's just like, there's something to be said about it. When I sat and I watched these episodes for the first time, like it straight up, dude, gave me chills. Like it just, you feel like you're there, the energy, the camaraderie, like it's, and you know, the media team, Wes and his whole crew, like they had so many cameras out there for comp day, and dude, it's just honestly a logistical and editing nightmare, but the dudes absolutely handled it. And like unsung heroes, bro, like how long that they sat there and grinded. And I stayed until Tuesday morning, and they were still there another 2 days after that, you know? So, man, there's so much involved into this, you know, because this whole thing, like I put into the writer's head, this is all about content. So being able to produce that content and have that rad of a team behind me, that driven, like I put so much time and effort into making this as best as I could, but I had the most badass media team behind me doing the exact same thing, putting their heart and soul into it. And the fact that they can come off, and they've filmed anything and everything when it comes to moto, and they come off and like, dude, you guys are making it easy on us. This is the most badass thing that I've ever filmed, straight up. So just to have that collective, like, response of, fans, writers, peers, filmers, everyone on production. Like, dude, we all left like speechless. Like, there's no way in a million years that we would have ever thought that it went as smoothly as it did, and to show that in film. And to be honest with you, with 12 riders, that many jumps, all that, how much footage hit the graveyard?
Oh,
so much.
Yeah. And
it's so crazy, like, but ultimately, like, we're learning, we're learning as we go. And hopefully, I know they're still working on it. You will see athlete runs just obviously clip back and forth between GoPro and like POV and FPV. So back and forth and kind of show the runs. I know obviously they're planning on doing the top 3, but I personally think all the riders need their own. We already have the footage, and it's obviously going to take a little more on the back end, and I'll do anything I can to help that, because these guys are out there risking their life. Obviously they got paid a little bit, but it was they're risking their life out there, so they deserve to have that their full run and be able to drop it on their socials. And for people to ultimately, it'll be cool to have 12 different runs and just show all the possibilities, because everyone's runs was so much different. And it was almost like Rampage. Like, you see that guy hit that, like, you don't want to take his jump, right? So you'd have to figure out how to hit another jump and link it all together. So we started hitting some of the same lines and landing on the same jumps, and we kind of started to work together on some stuff, but then branched off other ways. And that's literally to the T exactly how Rampage is. These guys will get together, they'll build their features, they'll each dig, there's an athlete, and you get 2 diggers, and then you get 75 sandbags per team. So guys will team up on a build of a big landing and share their sandbags, and all take both of their build crews and build it together to ultimately have one landing. But once they land off that jump, they both branch off different ways,
Yeah.
So, dude, there's so many ways you can spin this, and so many things that you can continue to build on. But, dude, ultimately, like, this from 1 to 2, it went so incredibly well, better than I could have ever imagined. And, I'm glad it went as good as it did, and now it just is that gets me that much more fired up on how to make it better and keep the wheels turning. This is all a work in progress, and man, free riding is the most badass thing ever. So it's just got to keep it going.
Yeah, it honestly was fucking insane. When you think about the cost, imagine if those boys that on the production side, and like yourself and like everyone that's involved in the process, like, imagine if you all were on an hourly rate and then you all submitted your hours at the end of it. Like, the cost of this thing would just be astronomical. Like, it takes such a group of like really, really hardcore, dedicated people that don't give a fuck about the hour meter, that just like want to make the project happen. It's like, here's the budget, this is what we got to do, I'll fucking die trying. And I mean, I know, like, this is probably the shoot where I like step out of like being able to relate with Wes and the crew. I feel like I experienced enough of what they did, like, and since I left America and like working with those guys, I'm like, oh yeah, I get it, I understand, I've been there. On this project, I'm like, I'm out, I don't get it. They fucking went like, I've done some gnarly shit with those boys, and they just blew everything I ever did. Like, I can't relate anymore.
Yeah, dude, it was unbelievable, man. Just like I said, just those guys working as hard as they did, and for them to leave, like I wore so many hats, and I put my heart and soul into this thing. And at the end of it, we had rider awards, and we gave away rider awards, and we gave Adam a $10,000 check to his foundation for letting us do this. Because the coolest thing about Adam, like, he won't accept a dime for us to do this there, which is mind blowing. Like, he's opening up his house, and he's like allowing this to happen. So that was that was just the smallest thing that we could do, like, just be able to give back to him. And I think that'll go a long way with him. But just being able to do that and have everyone work as hard as they did, and like me, like staying a few extra days and sitting in the edit bay with those guys, and like literally like being the rider in it, like being like, dude, this is so sick. Like, I cannot wait for people to see this. It's giving me chills watching you guys create this. And I'm sitting there and like enjoying a few beers with them afterwards. And then at the end of it, I'm staying out in the trailer with them until 1 a.m, and they got to break down the whole trailer and pack all their stuff. And, you know, I sat there and helped them break everything down. And it's like, what athlete do you know that would literally do that gnarly of a week, get pulled in that many directions, but then still sit there and have a few beers and help you work through the timeline and give you that, like, that stoke back that, like, you guys, what you guys are doing doesn't go unnoticed. And then to, on top of that, stay there, help them break down freaking 5 full big screens and all these hard drives and all these wires and all this stuff going everywhere to just like, you know, there's something to be said about that. I'm so overly grateful for everybody involved. This was such a massive team effort. And like, to be able to go back and do those rider awards and make my heartfelt speech at the end of it of thanking each and every person individually, and just, you know, there's just something to that nothing goes unnoticed. Like, I put my heart and soul into this and I worked my absolute ass off, but everyone else involved did too, you know, riders aside. Like, everyone on the back end worked so extremely hard to make this happen. And, you know, I'm just so incredibly grateful to have such a solid foundation and team behind me. And, you know, there's no I in team. Like, the people don't see what goes on the back end, and, you know, 6 months of planning and prep and conference calls once a week and just drawing out features and just like, you know, to the point where we're freaking arguing because I want it to be a certain way. And there's something to be said about that, of me being so involved in it, is because I love it. I love it so much that I want it to go a certain way. And when I put my mind to something, I'm going to do anything at all costs to make it happen. So, yeah, man, just incredibly stoked on just everything, everybody involved. Like, it was just, yeah, I'm speechless still, man.
So when Remy did the podcast, we were talking a lot about, you know, like the similar vibes that you guys share. Obviously, like, he's literally just starting his journey with Red Bull, and he's just did his, like, a project with those guys where they took 7 days to like build this course. And so in Remy's
badass
mind,
project too.
Dude, dope, eh?
Epic work, Ram Dog. And the fact that I was the one standing there and took the video of him when he had his accident, and I was the first one to him, and to see him overcome that and then now get on Red Bull was super special for me, because I've seen him do a similar thing. Came from a racing background, had cool style, did it his way, and now he's earned it, you know. And I think sky's the limit for him too, because he's one of the most creative individuals in his space. And yeah, man, super stoked. Sorry to interrupt you, but
no, dude, yeah, he's the man. So he was explaining that he's kind of inventing this new deal called DHT, right? And so in his mind, it's like, the courses, the bikes have gotten so much better. Like, the level in people's mind has gotten so much better, but the courses haven't progressed with the bikes and the riders themselves until like Fest series. And then Remy's like, okay, so how do we put that on a hill instead of just, you know, like having the big jump kind of deal? And so do you think there's like a part of that with, you know, you guys that are at the top, where it's like, all right, we're limited in the hills with, like, because it's like, it's set, you know, you can shovel a lip, but if you don't have the hill, you don't have the jump. So is there a thing where you've got a similar kind of line of thinking in your mind where you're like, we're actually just scratching the surface of what's possible on a bike in terms of like creativity jump wise?
1000%. You know, with us, especially on a dirt bike, like going to the hills and being able to make something with the shovel that big is so time consuming, you know? And ultimately, like, people want to say, like, at one point it was like, oh, you're not a free rider if you're not out shoveling jumps. Like, that's not the case at all. Like, there's 100% just scratching the surface. You can make the weirdest, most craziest shapes and whatever with with equipment, man, and like equipment that is your shovel. Like you have a freaking D8 shovel in your hands, in the palm of your hands, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's literally sky's the limit on how creative you want to get. Like you can taking inspiration from other action sports too, and like the wall rides and all this stuff. Like, dude, it's honestly sky's the limit, and just making stuff that's like out of the ordinary and making it cool. And I think like same with mountain biking has been done a really, really, really good job with that. Like in my opinion, mountain biking is second to none. They're top of the line when it comes to making films. Mountain bike films are insane, and snowboarding is right there with it. But something about the mountain bike films have always just been so sick, and they're just so creative, and how these guys are building these little 2-foot trails through the trees with gnarly jumps and gaps and all this stuff. Like, man, like it's for sure just scratching the surface. It's like how creative you want to get. And I think, you know, this last week at Imagination, like we're just tapping into the creative side of things. Like, you know, there was a lot of creativity out there, but there's a lot more to be had. So just stoked, man. Stoked. I get so pumped on scrolling through Instagram, and I get lost in the scroll hole of like seeing jump features and like mountain bike stuff and BMX stuff. And like, you know, like obviously they're on a smaller scale and they can do it with shovels. And, you know, now like mountain bikes have gotten so good, they're building everything with mini X's or whatever. But, you know, there's the sky's the limit, man. There's so much creativity to be had out there. And you know, there's rolling hills all over the place. And, you know, like that's one thing that I really, really, really want Jason Baker to come out here, or like take him somewhere with some proper elevation. He's built Stewart's Place. He's built freaking Hitmoto Sandbox. He's built all the straight rhythms. He's built, you know, does the KTM track, the Honda track. Like he's got so much stuff, but like he's created elevation from nothing, from flat ground. So to take that dude to some landscape like Beaumont would be unreal, like absolutely mind-boggling. So then it's just, you know, what we created was basically more or less on one rolling hill, like super mellow, like 35-foot toe up this hill and down the other side. And the way he explained it to me when we first went out there, I just wasn't quite picturing it yet, you know, but that guy sees it from underneath the ground up. So if you have a 30-foot toe up this hill for 100 yards and you dig in 5 feet for 30 feet, you're getting 100, you know, 10,000 square yards of dirt, right? So there's so much dirt there that it's like you don't ever see if you just, it takes a lot of work. And you know, that dude is an artist when it comes to dirt sculpting, you know, like from what that dude just created in 3 weeks that he was there and made that course what it was from last year in 3 weeks is like mind bending. And if you could take that dude and actually take it other places, like literally sky's the limit with creativity, you know? So ultimately that's my ultimate goal with this, is to expand and take it different places and you know, different landscapes. And ultimately just keep just learning and trying to build new, cool, weird, off the wall stuff and show people what's possible, really.
Is that probably the next thing you think is having something with like real elevation? Like, is that like what would take the Imagination course to the next level in your mind?
Yeah, for sure. Just elevation, just kind of just different feel of like not creating these jumps on something that, you know, we're taking from other places and trying to create that on something flat. Like we're, you know, taking it to places with elevation, or just, you know, just like ultimately, like to be able to expand and take this anywhere. Like if you look at like all the X Fighters courses, there was a lot of gnarly ones, but then you look at X Fighters Glen Helen, that was Jason Baker and Dane Heron that built that. And that was the most next level course, in my opinion, ever up until this point. After Imagination, that might have taken the cake just because of the scale of it. It was so much bigger than that little pit, but you saw what Jason created at X Fighters Glen Helen, and unfortunately it got ruined by weather, and you never really got to see the possibilities from it. But on practice day, when those dudes were flipping up the step up and like jumping the step down back down the hill, like, yeah, it's gnarly. Yeah, it takes those stakes way higher for us to have elevation and be jumping up and down hills like that. But yeah, man, it's just all about, I can see a place with elevation, and I can just picture like how to link all this stuff together, and like, and then ultimately all the dirt that you're pulling off the hill, it's like you can create stuff down in the flat bottoms and like have a more or less another dirt skate park basically in an arena, you know, jumps up the hill, down the hill, like all over. Like it's sky's the limit, man. Really, like you can get more features, more like that jib style stuff with the wall ride and the dump truck, and like, dude, sky is the limit. Like you just keep making weird off the wall stuff. And I think that's something to be said of also with this course, of seeing an overhead view of this course and you see the dump truck and it looks about this big. It gives you a scale of like how big it actually is. Like that wall ride was 15 feet to the bottom of the wall. And then the wall ride was 15 feet tall and 25 feet long from there. So like we are straight up like wall riding a billboard, you know, and there's no room for error on a lot of this stuff. But, it's just all, you know, trying to push the limits of our sport and progress and, you know, be creative. And obviously all that comes from being inspired by other action sports of, you know, these dudes wall riding on BMX and mountain bike. And, you know, you see slope style at X Games, Winter X Games, and you see the wall rides in the slope style course now. And to be honest with you, you know, this is, I look at this very similarly that I do to snowboarding, as snowboarding is like spin to win now. The style aspect has kind of gone away, and kudos to the small group of dudes that are bringing the style back to it. And now the courses are starting to change with the style because people are getting over the spin to win. Like you watch them and the announcers are like, I need to see a replay. I don't even know what he just did. He just did a freaking 2,500. You know what I mean? So that's how this is with freestyle. Like freestyle has gotten to that point where it's like now it's not just like a spin to win type thing. You know, we're trying to create something that like has creativity and style rather than just a spin to win or have to do a double backflip variation or you're not getting invited to X Games. You know, I don't want it to be like that. I want it to be all about style, creativity, and just innovating within those lines, you know?
Yeah, and I think that's part of it is the course too, you know? Like the jumps are so big. Like you might be able to flip a couple of these jumps. And then if you do flip, it's like, it's not really going to push you over the edge that much, you know. But I think like making the shit so big, it's like, and you just get to see like a rider's real style when they've got that much time in the air.
Absolutely. And you know, like obviously like the flips and all that, like it's gonna score you a little higher, but like when people haven't seen the full runs yet, and when they do, I think they'll have a better idea of who actually won and did. Because like, you know, you see it on Instagram and people are like, oh, like Colby should have won. He flipped 3 times and he did this and he did that. But like what people didn't see, it was like Axel absolutely murdered the jib section, like doing nosies, landing on the seat, down the hill, back to a nosy, like landing on the seat, wheeling across the container and doing a no-foot can off, to like all this cool, weird, techie stuff, to also nailing the whole course, using the whole entire course to its potential, hitting huge turn-ups, huge whips, tricks, a flip, like airing the quarter like he did. Like once people will see the full runs, like, dude, Axel absolutely crushed it, and so did Colby. They both absolutely, and they were so close, and it was hard to separate that. But when you look at it as a whole aspect, it's not just judged on like your tricks or your whole run. It's all those zones together. He used the jib section to its absolute max, like, and then to do all that in a 5-minute run, holding your breath the whole time over all these gnarly jumps is like gnarly. Like we come off, and like I hadn't been that winded since doing sprint laps at Supercross, and like it was 5 minutes and I come off and I'm just like completely smoked, you know, and everyone involved was just like, oh, it was so gnarly. But when you look at, you know, Colby's second run, yeah, he did that quarter pipe feature. He did flip the 120 over the quarter pipe. He did a few things, but then he also made some mistakes in other places. So his score went up from his second one because of the things that he added, but Axel's, both of his runs were pretty damn flawless. And he used the course to his potential. He did the gnarly jib technical stuff in that jib section. And also, you know, hit all the biggest jumps, hit big whips and big tricks, all that stuff. So, yeah, it'll be cool. I'm really stoked for people to see the full runs and just to see everyone's, like, creativity. Like I said, Sipes, like, I have no idea how that freaking dude remembered his line, because he literally used it like a spider web. He went from here to here and here to here, and, like, you know, it was crazy to watch that dude, like, stand there and rehearse it over and over in his head. He visualized that run at least 1,000 times over the 2 days, just literally laying in bed the night before, looking at photos of the course, like running in through his line, you know. And it's like, everyone thinks like we're freeriders, we just fuck off. Like, we work our asses off. There's so much that goes into this that people don't understand, you know, and to be able to put all that together was pretty cool. So, yeah, just stoked to, hopefully sooner than later, we can start to unroll some of that stuff, see people's full runs, and just ultimately showing all the athletes full runs will just show the potential of the course that we built. Like, it's not just a single run in line. It's like, dude, there's 85 jumps out there. How do you put them all together?
Yeah, and I think the cool thing too about the format is that, so like, you get a guy like Ryan Sipes, yeah, boy. You get a guy like Ryan Sipes to come along, and he's got like this completely different background. Like, he's bringing something to the table that Colby ain't bringing and Axel ain't bringing, but you put them in the same course on the same event, and then you're going to see like the way that Sipes visualize. That's probably going to leave an impression on like Axel and Colby and be like, fuck, like, I probably need, like, their brain just doesn't work like that standard, you know, whereas Sipes' brain works like that. He's like, okay, I'm going to visualize everything. And so, you know, you get like that rub off effect, and it's like, imagine now if like Colby and Axel just go that deep visualization for then, you know, runs next year. And it's like, even though Sipes might not be pushing the level that they are in one aspect of riding, it's like he's got another aspect so dialed, and then for that to then rub off on those guys, that actually does end up lifting the overall level.
Absolutely. And the coolest part about it, like, Ryan knew going into it, like, he doesn't look at jumps and be like, oh, I'm going to whip that thing upside down. That's just like not what he's done, you know? So the fact that he knew that, and he knew like, okay, I have to think outside the box and do this my way, and ultimately show the creativity. And that's what's cool about Ryan, is he's down to do everything. And not only is he down to do it, he's damn good at it. He may not be the best, but he can show up and he can be so competitive. And if you look at that dude and his last month schedule of what he's done to go race the flat track, race ISDE, race Washougal, do a hill climb, go to Big Hill Jam, leave, like, go straight to Imagination, like, all this stuff, like, that is the baddest dude ever, you know, to be able to do that. And then not only that, like, go down as hard as he did to get back up and just still come out swinging the next day, you know? So I think that's cool, man. It's so cool to show, like, you know, this, you don't have to be the baddest dude at whipping or doing tricks or whatever, but it's like, you can take this course and take your own spin on it and use, you know, your own flavor of whatever you want to do, of how to put it all together. And that's the coolest part about it, is just showing that creativity. Like, I tell you what, man, when you guys see Sipes' run, K-Dub will be so proud. K-Dub will be so incredibly proud of this dude, of how he just broke it down. And like, again, like, if there's no way in hell, I would have gotten lost, like, for sure. The line that he did, I would have gotten fully lost. But yeah, man, it's just so cool to see everyone kind of take it and take their own spin on it. And, you know, dudes like Jimmy Hill going out there and doing mini flips and riding up the quarter pipe and doing reverts and flipping stuff and doing tricks, but also like doing donuts in the middle of the course. Like, it's all a just form of expression, and it's all creative, you know? And I think the biggest thing with this is like, and from this year to last year, like, it showed everyone's personality, you know? And personality is a massive thing. It's a massive thing in our sport. Like, if we wouldn't have the personality to go along with the riding, I don't think free riding would be what it is. So to showcase the personality and you know, everyone's just the camaraderie too and all that stuff, like, man, it's just, I think we hit the nail on the head this year for that. But you know, that's just makes it that much more harder on me for next year, because it's like, you know, you want to outdo. You're only as good as your last jump, your last event, your last race, whatever. So you know, there's I got a lot ahead of me and a lot in store to be able to outdo what we did this year. But I mean, dude, there's definitely some things that we left on the table, and you know, we know that, and yeah, it's just all about just continuing to let your mind wander, and those crazy off the wall ideas like could just ultimately like come to fruition with some hard work. So yeah, man, so stoked, so stoked.
I think too with Sipes, like, there's the off the bike angle too, where, you know, because you've got 4 days of practice and everyone's kind of bringing a different thing to the table. Like, you're the kind of guy that is, you know, the leader when it comes to giving these guys a tow, and it's your course, and like, it's sort of, you know, the buck kind of stops with you event wise. But I mean, I can see a guy like Sipes being a dude that is sort of a bit of glue that's kind of holding the crew together while all the riders are out on course, you know. So like, it's actually quite important to have those different personalities together too, because you're kind of in the trenches with each other for 4 days.
For sure, 100%. And that was going back to the day that I had to take off for spraining my ankle and twisting it. Like, I was hurting, man, and like that next day, you know, I still had to like head the riders meeting and speak for everyone. And I was like, at the end of the day, guys, like, I've gotten pulled in a million directions, and today I'm out. Like, I'm gonna sit on the sidelines. I will be here to help each and every one of you. If you have any questions on any jumps or hitting up something new, like, I'm here to help, but I need to take a step back. I'm not going to be that guy today to have to be able to tow you all over all these jumps, you know? So that's when you, like you said, Sipes being the glue, he kind of headed that for me, you know? He kind of took everyone and was like, okay, I want to hit this one, like, cleared the course, hit it, and then helped other guys hit it and the speeds and whatnot. So it was just cool to have, you know, everyone on the same page, and everyone saw how hard I was working. And when I kind of took a step back and was able to soak it all in that day, I was still like, they told me, you know, just chill, like, don't do anything, put your foot up. And like, man, you can't keep me down. I was still up there, like, you know, I was on the 110 riding around. I was telling everyone, like, $100 to tee this jump up, because it's one of the only ones we haven't hit. And once we hit it, like, we're going to open up the course and the possibilities of just hitting this jump. So let's just handle it, please. Like, it can be done. Everything on this course can be done. I know it's intimidating, but it can. So just being that dude, helping them, and just ultimately, you know, that whole day I was doing media. I was doing Zoom calls in the media trailer. I was doing Nightline interviews. I was doing interviews for Men's Journal. I was getting pulled in so many different directions, but I never let it beat me. Never, ever, ever let it beat me. I was still in it. Like, they told me, take the day off. Like, just chill. Like, don't do anything. And I care about it so much that I was still in it head first. I was just, you know, I was able to take myself out of the riding aspect of it, but I was still there. Like, Ryan, this new step down that you just hit or want to hit, like, I think it would be this gear. You should swing wide and hit it this way or whatever. I was just in it, you know. I was like, I was so involved to just make it show the possibilities that I didn't even care about the contest at the end of the day. Like, yeah, I got to put my game face on when it comes to contest day, but like, I'm here to help because I want us to show the possibilities in free riding and just the creativity side of it. So yeah, man, I wore a lot of hats, but it was so worth it at the end to just have everyone and all my peers and riders and everyone leave saying it was the most fun they've ever had. It was just, yeah, man, makes it all worth it, you know?
Dude, the other insanely cool moment to come out of it was seeing you give Kalane's Red Bull helmet. That was pretty dope. And also, that's probably another little, you know, milestone within the whole freeride world, because that is the next generation. Like, that's Red Bull literally making a claim of like who the future is of this sport, you know?
Yeah, man, absolutely. That was like, it was so special to be able to be that dude. Like, I've met that kid 5 years ago. Like, he's only been riding for 6-7 years now. Like, he's young. He started when he was 8. He's 13. Like, he hasn't been riding that long, and the kid's just got it. He's creative. He comes from a really well, like, family, and they're just grounded in film and photography, really. So just the fact that like he's got it at a young age and he sees it, and like ultimately at the end of the day, like, I was a racer too. That was my ultimate goal my whole life, was I wanted to be on the line, the Supercross main event, right? And if he's 13 years old, he's still racing. If that's what he wants to do, I'm not going to tell him to not do that. Like, do it as long as he can. But just the fact of him hanging around us and riding with us and just being on an 80 and stepping out of his comfort zone, and like he's just got it. So I pushed really hard to get him on, and it's just cool to see like Red Bull can see that they saw it in me before I saw it in myself, and then now being able to do that and give back to the next generation. And ultimately, like, he shows up to Imagination, he hits one of the craziest jumps I've seen on an 80 for sure. Like, taller jumps, maybe not the biggest distance wise, but it was massive, dude. And then him throwing knack-knacks and teaching him how to hit the ramp and seat bouncing the ramp now, and like, he's just progressing quickly. And I think it's cool that Red Bulls sees that in him, and it's like kind of my little Grom, my little mini me. Like, if I just keep pushing him in the right direction of enjoying what you do, and yeah, like, you can still go race, you can still go do this, you can still go do that, but like ultimately let's just create content and just breeding the little homie, So for my standpoint, like, I'm my own agent. So when I was doing the Red Bull deal and back and forth between Red Bull and Weed Maps, like, I knew that was coming, right? I'd always seen other action sports and people get presented with the helmet and surprised, and it's like, that is like so heartfelt, you know what I mean? Like, that's just a kid's dream come true. But I worked on my deal myself, so I kind of knew it was coming, right? So I didn't really get to have that opportunity. So to be the one to be able to do that for the next generation was so sick, man. It was so cool. We like kind of hid his helmet from him and told him, like, just let him just get more and more frustrated and freaking out. He was like looking for his helmet for 2 hours, running around to all the filmers and everyone around, like, where's my helmet? Where's my helmet? Have you seen my helmet? And we just let it build and build and build and build. And then I just slowly walked out of the motorhome nonchalant and like, hey, found your helmet, buddy. And he's like, yes. And like, didn't even know. And I like slowly unzipped it and pulled it out. And he's just like, no way. Like, no way. I'm
really?
Like, yeah, read the back. Says, yeah, nah. And I was like, yeah, homie. I was like, I'm proud of you. Like, you earned it, And then he just instantly started crying. Just that, like, raw emotion, of making it, like, a kid's dreams come true is, like, so rad. And for that to be in the middle of the most hectic week I've ever had on two wheels was like icing on the cake. So just to see him do that, and then see him put the helmet on, and then just see him just instantly just step out of his comfort zone and start and hit that big double, and like, it was just so cool, man. And the kid's got it. So just going to keep pushing him in the right direction with whatever he wants to do. I'm not going to force him to do one thing or the other. Like, I'm here for him and whatever he wants to do. But I think, if I had that mindset when I was 13, like, you know, like sky could be the limit, and that's just ultimately what it is for him. So last year after Imagination 1, I came back and he got a new house and had a few acres, and I went and designed a mini Imagination course in his backyard that's like a supercross section that ties in with like a free ride section and a ramp, and like the kids just got everything at his fingertips, and he just, you know, just keep going. Nah, stoked to be the one to lead the way for you.
So he had no idea that he had a Red Bull deal?
No, not really. I know, like we've been trying to work on it for a while, but you know, like with energy drinks and being young and whatnot, like they can't really promote kids that young until they're a little older. So it was a lot of back and forth, but we literally, like Steve Shearer, my Red Bull team manager, he was working tirelessly on it, and he finally got it green lighted Monday night, and we already had the helmet and stuff. So Tuesday I was able to give it to him, and as soon as it was green lighted, it was like, it's on. So the kids just ultimately, like I said, like Red Bull's not going to be able to promote him for a little bit, but he does it on his own. You know, he 100% does it all on his own. He goes, gets all these clips during the day, and he goes home and puts them on the computer and edits his own clips together. And like, dude, there's not a lot of kids doing that at his age. So it's cool to see Red Bull take notice and just ultimately like pave the way for the next generation. Like these kids are coming up are no joke. So stoked to be like I'm like proud dad, you know?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it is super cool, and you know, like I've been following him for a while. Like I'm a fan of him. But you know, like he hurt his knee recently, so it's like, you know, we've already kind of got to see him battle through an injury, and he passed that test. Like he killed it. Didn't lose his stoke, and was like at all the events. Like he's still like it is really cool to see a kid that's that young. I thought he was a little bit older, to be honest, but to be that young, and then like the family background that he's got, like he's watched his dad create like insane content, so he gets it, you know, like he obviously gets it from a young age, and it's like it's gonna be pretty crazy to watch. And I mean, I think everyone's probably the knee-jerk reaction, like that would have been so random to be like, damn, they give a kid a Red Bull helmet. But then to then you see, as soon as he put that helmet on to go and hit that jump, you're like, that's why. Because like you give a kid, you know what I mean? Like there's no one else doing that. Yeah. And then, you know, you literally give the kid wings. Like that belief, you know, you get a deal with Red Bull. That's basically like somebody saying, oh yeah, no, you can do this. So here, go do it. You know, like, because until then, you know, you'd be like hoping and thinking you can do it. So imagine being that young, getting the green light, like you said, and then, you know, it's just like, all right, now this is real. Now dedicate your life to this and see what you can do.
Yep, absolutely. And it's just, having that platform behind you and people believing in you. And it ultimately, you know, like I'm not the best under pressure, I don't think, but being able to be on Red Bull and learn how to deal with that pressure and channel it into positive energy is like, there's something to be said about that. You know, you can't put that into words. So just the fact that like someone believes in you that much, and it just lights a fire under your ass to just stokes you that much more to go out and just just be the best of your ability, you know? And it's funny that you say that, like you put the helmet on and just instantly, like he's like, oh, they gave him wings. Like, dude, he hit that moon booter, and like going into it, I was like, it's such a big jump and it's so tall that like he has a tendency to hit stuff like with a more momentum and kind of lug through it. And he was like, hey, I want to hit this. And like, you know, we're filming, trying to get our practice in. And I was like, oh, like, nah, like I love you, homie, but like maybe now's not the time, because we're like, we had 12 guys and we had to split it between 2 6-man groups so we could ultimately get the footage and it not be too chaotic. So he was kind of rolling up to it. And I was like, I don't know. And then Jason Baker came up to me and he's like, hey, if he's rolling up to that thing, if you better go tell him if he hits it, he better freaking hit it. Like, don't pussyfoot it 100%. Just freaking power through that thing because he's going to lose so much more speed with those little wheels and the small bike up it. So I went and told him, I was like, hey, like maybe now's not the time. And he ran up to it a few more times, and I came up to him. I'm like, nah. I'm like, follow me, like hit this thing off to the side and land on the side of the jump. And he's like, I'd rather just hit it straight. And I was like, all right. I was like, look, I'm not telling you all this stuff to like that I don't think you can do it. I know you can do it. But I was like, do not pussyfoot it. Just like, do not hesitate. Like when in doubt, give it more than you think, because you're going to lose so much more speed than us up the lip. We're hitting it in second, just cruising, and you have to hit it in fourth. So when he told me that, he's like, oh, I just want to hit it straight. And I was like, all right, listen to me. As long as you do this, like you got it. I trust you. So comes back around, and I'm like, all right, like, no, I'm going to follow you. And I didn't want to jump it behind him just in case anything happened. So I followed him, and I went just to the right of the jump. And as soon as he left the lip, I was like, oh, he's got it, you know? And I just fucking, like just so pumped for him, you know? And then we roll back around. He comes through, and like every single person there on the ground is just like, yeah, no, you know, just so pumped for him, and just to like face his fears like that. But then he rolls back up, and he stops, and he like pulls his goggles off, and he just like so nonchalantly in front of everybody, like, well, I guess Red Bull does give you wings. And I was just like, hell yeah. It's like, you just something to be said. You put that helmet on, and it just gives you that extra amount of confidence, you know? And yeah, man, just so stoked for the kid, and stoked to be there to mentor him and just push him in the right direction, and ultimately whatever he wants to do, but, you know, whatever he's doing, keep it fun.
That's got to be kind of the hard thing in your position, because you want to help the kid progress, but you also don't want to fucking buckle the little dude, you know, like that's got to be, and it's not like, you know, you're on if you're on with a 450 and somebody else, you just be like, look, man, hold this thing wide open. Like, you need to get up the up ramp and just fucking crack this bitch, all right? And then you're good. There's no guesswork. But like, you don't know how to hit that on an 80. Like, you're not doing that. So like, he's on an island. He's existing by himself, trying to like relay the 100%. Info that you're giving him. Like, so that's first of all got to be super scary for you, and then that's got to be super scary for him. And like, dude, talk about the pressure of being 13, putting on a Red Bull helmet, and then being like, fuck, I gotta huck something sick. And then to actually do it, like, yeah, it made me so pumped for the kid. Yeah, me too, man. It was just cool, because I was like I said, I was like, yeah, man, I don't know. I was like, but I know you got it, but like, maybe just chill. And like, once he was running into it, and I was like, honestly, I don't really know how to tell you to hit it, because we can come in so lazy on a 450 and just be like, burp, 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 you know, and as big of a jump it was perfect. So it was like, it was so much slower than you could think. And when it feels gnarly on a 450, it's like, it's going to be absolutely insanely gnarly on a super mini. So yeah, man, so proud of the little dude, and just how far he's came with overcoming that injury and coming back, and like, it just lit a fire under him. Like, you know, he's 13, and like, do you get the knee fixed or not? He tore his ACL, and like, I've done so many of them, and working with doctors and physical therapists, and I got him, you know, Marco, my physical therapist for high performance, like working on him, and ultimately we decided that it was the best thing to not get it fixed. And he grinded and grinded and grinded. He was like going to the gym like 2 days or twice a day, every day during the week, you know, like, just, that's all he wanted to do. He just loves his dirt bike so much that's all he wanted to do was get back on. So to keep the little dude down was really hard. But we did, and he overcame it. And like, dude, next thing you know, he was out there, like, he's 4 or 5 months after tearing his ACL, and he missed Loretta's, and it ate him up. But, you know, we brought him out to Imagination, and he worked that hard to get back on his bike, and showed up and showed out. So proud of the little dude. Yeah, it's pretty sick, man. So with the content side of things, so obviously you take the SIG series out of it, and then that means that you don't have to go. It's like 3, 2, 1, drop. Like, if there's a little bit of wind, if there's like the kind of weather's a bit shit, like, you can't wait for the good light with the filming. So I guess, like, those things aside, just the content, like you've always been so focused on content. Was it pretty rad to actually get to just make this about content? And like, what is it about the whole content game that, like, you've been obsessed with content since I met you?
Yeah, I think, like, you know, that was like I said, the best part for us was it was for riders by riders. Now, we didn't have the pressure of the signature series to really make it feel like a contest. Like, you got to drop it this time. It doesn't matter if it's windy or not. Like, thankfully this year, and I truly believe that, like, I just lost my grandpa, and my grandpa was like my dude, you know, and he literally watched over us all week. He sent us rain in the middle of the week. It made the course perfect. There was 0 wind on the days when last year it was windy every single day. So he ultimately helped us get through that with just, you know, creating and making the elements right. And for that to be right was on point, or it was amazing. But you know, looking at it, and I told all the riders, like, I'm setting up this schedule. I'm kind of doing everything all based on content. So yeah, it kind of sucks to have to get out there a little earlier, but the light in the morning is insane. And then midday, the light's dog shit. So we take a break, we eat, they have catered food for us, and then we ride again in the afternoon when the lighting's good. And just ultimately, when you're doing it for the content like that, you get those free ride sessions, you know, us like vibing off of each other, riding together, just ultimately to get the shots, the best shots we can, and ultimately show all the possibilities of every section. You know, the sides of jumps are perfect, everything. So it's just all about that content of leading up to everything. Everyone's fired up of seeing the content back the whole week and keeping the riders stoked on what we're doing, to then ultimately like also be learning the sections at the same time, but then moving around and opening up the full course at the end of the week, and then being able to put it all together. So not only did we make the best content, did we practice at the same time, but we showed all the possibilities for each section to then know that the possibilities in each zone to be able to put them all together, right? So it all boils down to like that content. Like, we're there to make the sickest content, show the possibilities, but also to learn the course and be able to put it all together like that at the end of it. So it was super cool, man. And it all comes down to, like, you know, free riding, like where free riding started back in the day from our heroes and dudes going out to the hills and creating, you know, all the steel roots and terra firmas and like the baddest movies ever and crusties and all that. It was all about content, right? So it's just ultimately it's taking that and taking a more competition feel and combining the two. But when you do that and you let the riders have full creative freedom, you can ultimately create it in the coolest way possible, of like taking that pressure cooker situations out of it, having fun the whole week, and then like, yeah, you put it together, the 5-minute run, it adds that pressure or whatever, but it's all like you just had the best week ever of creating content, creating cool shit, and then to be able to put it all together at the end and still link all that cool content together in one is like even better. You know, it wasn't easy having 5-minute runs. Like, people would be mind blown of how long a 5-minute run actually is.
Oh yeah.
And how much ground you can cover on that course. Like, it seemed like, 5 minutes. Like last year, my second run, it was a 2.5-minute course. My second run was 4 minutes 58 seconds, and we had a 5-minute cutoff. So this year, like, these dudes would get through the whole entire course, hit all close to every feature, like basically cover most of it, and you'd still have a minute left to go. So it's like, that's when you can really get creative and start doing nosies over stuff and hitting this to that and that to that and that to that, you know what I mean? and believe me, like, it's so sick, but it's so hard mentally to like remember that, and then remember to breathe in between stuff. And ultimately, like, when you're hitting these things and you're trying to crank it as hard as you can on each and every one of them, you're holding your breath the whole time. So you're basically like holding your breath for damn near 5 minutes and picking those little zones to breathe. But it's all, you know, I think at least for my run, I was thinking like the whole run, I was going through all this stuff, but thinking about the last jump that I had to do was that massive step down. And I was thinking about that the whole time. And that's like, that was what screwed me in Supercross. Then when I was racing Supercross, I'm hitting all the rhythms good, but I'm literally hitting those rhythms holding my breath because I know the fucking whoops are coming up and they're going to eat me up. So yeah, it's like same thing. So it's tough, but man, it's just so cool to show the creativity and ultimately just all based on content. And I think when you put those two things together, you ultimately get the best of both worlds. So
yeah. I think that's such a great way to do it. Like if you focus around the content, because the content, like for you to make the best content possible, you've got to do the best shit possible, you know? So I think it actually, it's like a loop that kind of feeds into itself pretty well, you know?
Yep. And ultimately that's why freeriding is freeriding. Like, and that's why we are in the position we are now, is ultimately creating that content that we have for years. And, you know, having a platform of social media to help that, like, has been huge. You know, we've lucked out of falling into this time in this age and day that, you know, day and age that we're able to just go out and make Instagram videos and people want it. They want to see it. They're chomping at the bit to see it. So that's ultimately like bringing that and bringing that quote unquote contest feel and combining the two. And ultimately when you do that, you have the content, you have the creative freedom, and then be able to take it to a comp, like you ultimately get the results like we did. You know, you get the best of both worlds. Yeah.
So when you're hitting these jumps for the first time, what is your thought process? And so this is what I learned when we did Dream Ride, right? So we make these big jumps in the middle of this field, and so we had like probably 5 or 6 jumps, and it took us so much fucking work to get it done. Like I can't even imagine what you guys did. But like, so when we were building Dream Ride, I'm building it like as big as I could with what we had, because I'm like, oh dude, I know Malcolm and Josh will like get here and be like I need to impress them. Like I need to make something gnarly for them. And then I didn't anticipate when they got there, they were both like, fuck, I don't know if I'll be able to jump that. I don't know if I'll be able to jump that. Like literally everything except like 2 jumps. They were like, I don't know if I could hit that. And I was freaking out. But the thing that I learned from that shoot, and then every shoot I've ever done after that, is pretty much every single rider, from the best dudes in the world to me, look at a jump for the first time and go like, I don't know if I can make that. Like it's just a universal thing.
Yeah, for sure. I think most of everything out there was like so scary, man. It was so intimidating. And you first get there and you take some of the baddest dudes in the world of riding a dirt bike, like Josh Hill, and he looks at me and he's like, I don't know if that's possible. And I'm like, dude, just believe me, like it is. Like everything that Jason builds with a purpose, and it will work. You just have to commit, you know? So to be able to build all that stuff and come through it in the mindset of like, I don't know if you can do it. But at the end of the day, the day before finals, before I guess it would be day 3 of practice, we tapped into K-Dub's Kingdom. That was like the last zone that we hadn't hit. And the first thing I did, it was the morning we got the rain. So the first thing I did was went out and I took a tape with all the riders and I taped out every option on there. And as long as in my head, if I'm a rider and I know the distance, I'm going to know the gear, and it's all feel from that point. So if you know the distance, you're going to know what gear you think you need to get that distance in, and then you come out and it's all feel. You roll into it, you roll into it, you roll into it, you see what it says to you, and then ultimately you just have to commit. And, you know, sometimes it goes good and sometimes it goes bad. And I think Colby hit the nail on the head when he said that quote at the end of, or halfway through that 3rd episode, was like, you know, you could be teeing up one of these jumps and 20 seconds from now you could be super stoked or you could be seriously injured. You know what I mean? Which is, you know, there's something to be said about facing your fears, but if you can see it, if you can mentally visualize it and see it, you can make it happen. And I'm a firm believer of that. And the more I sit and look at something, I know it's doable. It's just all about committing. And again, when I go back to the Kelowna thing, like, don't pussyfoot it. Everything out here is fully built with a purpose. So as long as you commit, like, everything's going to work. And it's crazy. Like like I said, there's anywhere from 70-foot jumps to 150, and the 150-foot jumps are still third gear. And everything you'd think, like it's so massive, you would have to hit it way faster than you think, but ultimately it's really not. It's built with a purpose, and it's built perfectly. So it's like, yeah, just overcoming that, it's all on just feel and just fear, you know, like you can't let the fear set in too much to just like ultimately let it just like drive you in the hole and not do it. So to me, man, I'll run into it a few times, and it's almost one of those things, like you got to go hollow head. Like you don't think, you just go. Like the more you sit and think about it and look at it, the more it's going to drive you nuts, and you're going to see all those like what ifs in your head, you know, and you don't want that. Like you never want to think of like how many times does a bike break on you on a lip or anything like that. You never want to think like that. You just want to just visualize it, and as long as you can see it, you can make it happen. So just so thankful that for as gnarly as the jumps were, everything worked so good. And like, yeah, like I said, I was the one to have to guinea pig all that stuff, and you know, it was all just like a feel. Like I'd roll into it, I'd ride off it a few times, and it's like, all right, in my head, I think I know what to do. And for the most part, everything worked minus one jump. I think out of the 85 jumps that were on the course, I think that there was only there was a few transfers definitely left on the table, but there was, I think, 2 jumps on the whole course that didn't get hit.
Really?
Out of 85. So, yeah. So, and they ate me up. Like I wanted to hit them, but the day that I took off, I couldn't, I was hurt. So I just wanted to chill. But the more I started to look and break down my line and how to link everything together, the 2 jumps that we didn't hit kind of left me in a dead space of like how, you know, I wanted the line to flow and not be like stop and go somewhere and like get lost and have to figure out where you're at. Like I couldn't really add those features in without, you know, getting lost on the course. So ultimately, because I didn't have that last day of practice, like I was hurt, everyone else that was the first day that we gave everyone an open course, and me being in the heart of it, towing everyone over the jumps, like there's so many jumps crossing, like we all had to stick together and hit one thing at a time. So yeah, I towed the whole group. Like they called me camp counselor TB. I was camp counselor, towing everybody over all the jumps and making sure everyone was safe. But it came down to the last day, and it was like, fuck, I've been so head first in trying to get everybody over this safely and get everyone acclimated with it that I don't even know what my line is yet. I haven't even got there yet. And, you know, the day before of not being able to actually have an open course to myself and put it all together, like I had no idea what I was going to do until I laid in bed the night before and I put it together. So that morning of the contest was the first time I got an open course. I teed off a couple jumps in the morning, and then it was like, okay, everyone gets 1 5-minute practice to link their whole line together. So that was the first time. I still hadn't even done 3 of the jumps in my line, and I had to go out there and tee those 3 jumps off back to back to back, and then go back to the loading chute and be like, all right, I'm ready, and have to link it all together. So I had 1 5-minute pull before my 2 runs to be able to link it all together. So it was pretty stressful, but at the end of the day, like I'd set out to do it, and I knew my line the night before, and I put it together. And it was tough not having those extra practices, because, you know, there was times where I almost got lost in my run, and I had tagged a couple jumps because I hadn't hit them enough and whatever, but it was all good, man. I set out to be that dude. I was camp counselor, and I told everyone, like, I will be that guy for you. I will tow you over everything. I want everyone to be as comfortable as they possibly can, and not like self-destruct when they see this stuff, because yeah, it's gnarly, but everything's possible, and I believe in each and every one of you guys, you know. So yeah, man, to be that dude and be able to pull that off as good as I did, and then switch over to athlete mode that day of the contest. And obviously I was like hurting, I could barely walk, and just to make it happen and still land on the podium, I was psyched. But yeah, come next year, I got some work to do to be able to beat those 2 dudes.
Yeah, no, definitely, dude. When you say you got like you know the gear for the distances. In your mind, what's the split? Because it's almost like golf clubs, right? It's like I hit my pitching wedge 150, I hit my 9-iron 160. So it's like, is that the level that you're thinking about it?
Oh, quit bragging! Come on, dude. You don't hit it that far.
That was for Jacob. I was psyching that motherfucker
yeah, so
out.
To me, it all depends on, like, especially the K-Dub side. The biggest jump on that side was, the biggest jump in that section was 110 in the middle. I made it the biggest jump be that step down, but it wasn't a jump on there. It was a jump that I basically made. But that step down was probably 130-ish, and that thing was third gear with a super short run, but it was just everything you had out of third. But everything else on that side, the biggest jump in the middle of that was 110 feet, and it was second gear. So it all depends on, like, the run in that you have, and, like, it's all built to maximize your power. So when you get down to the other side, like the 140, the step up 140 before the quarter pipe, and then the 140 over the berms, like, those were third gear, and it's basically just everything out of third gear. So it all depends on the run. But, like, you know, like the moon booter that Kalana hit, like, we have that turn before it, and we have, like, a decent run into it. So it's all just feel, just burr up, you know? So everything, like, I guess to answer your question, you would know just the distances. If it's 100 feet, 100 to 120, like, sometimes if it's a shorter run, you could get that in second to maximize your power. But if you have a little bit longer of a run, you probably want to be in third gear, because if you have a longer run, you're going to be higher in the RPMs in second when you get to it. So if you go to whip, it's going to be hard because you're already in the RPM. So it's all just a feel. And I think all these guys are so good at what they do and knowing their gears and you know, what for distances and all that, like, everyone was able to figure it out, you know? So I think some of them, I would say some of the big dogs, most of the big dogs were all third on the big dog section, and then everything in K-Dub Kingdom was second gear because it was all so tight and compact, but just all built to maximize your power. So, I think just it's all feel and running and obviously just some people are different than others. Like Josh Hill would rather, with the long run in, like, shorten his run in and hit the 140 in third rather than, like, getting a longer run in and cruising fourth. You know what I mean? So it's just all the feel, man. And these guys are so good at what they do that, you know, they can sit and watch somebody or get towed over it and then know how to adjust from there.
Yeah, that's like there was in the edit today, you could see Sealy hit that 140 for the first time, and it's just like grease, just straight butter. First time hitting such a big jump, you're just like, what the fuck, dude?
Yeah, and it's, again, dude, everything's built with the purpose. There's a setup jump that drops you into it, and as long as you come into that setup jump with rolling speed in second, you click third as you scrub it, and you put your wheels down on the landing, it's maximize your power in third. It's everything she's got from third all the way off of it, and you're going to grease it perfectly every time. You're not going to go long because of just the run-in, you know? So everything's built perfectly. It's just built it's scary, straight up. Like, there's no doubt about it. It's all scary, but it's all built with a purpose. And it's just, as long as you commit and as long as you trust your abilities, like, everything will work.
Yeah. Yeah, no, man. I just, like, you look at that stuff, and, I mean, I've been around times where you're looking at jumps, like, even, you know, like Farm Jam and stuff, and it's like mentally what's going on for you guys to hit those jumps first, and to, or like, not even guinea pigging first, but just like anytime you're jumping a jump like that for the first time, it's just like, that's a mental game, eh? And it's always scary. Yeah. Like, and you know, you sort of, I feel like the average Joe would think like, man, it's crazy how they can do that. But there's the same level of fear I feel like you guys are overcoming as like any dude at any vet track.
Yep. Yeah, and me being the guinea pig for all that stuff, like, of course I was scared shitless, you know? But I just won't let it beat me. Like, if you can channel that fear into positive energy and know that you can do it, like, again, that's when I say going hollow head and not thinking about it too much and just trusting yourself, committing, like, and a lot of the jumps were built that, like, say the 140 when I hit it for the first time, the one up the hill before the quarter pipe, I just took off like half the way up the lip and I just hipped the thing to the side just to see the distance that I would get with the speed. So once I did that once, I was like, oh, I know exactly how to hit it, and just kind of commit off the top of it, you know? So that's just like, literally, it's so funny. They said they're going to make me an Instagram cut of just all my like moto talk to everybody, explaining how to hit it. Like, yeah, you come out of the turn, just you're out. And literally everything was exactly how I explained it. If you come out and you like, you maximize your power and you like, you know, you hammer that thing, you give it everything she's got, and you like squat your bike, like push it down and like use the power and the suspension and like load that thing all the way off, it's gonna work, I promise you. So yeah, man, just stoked that, yeah, again, like I can't say it enough, I'm just so incredibly stoked to get all my friends out of there in one piece, because it was the craziest course that I can confidently say I think it was the craziest course ever built. And yeah, like last year, having 3 dudes go out with injury, and you know, Darren like OJing that thing, like going 210 feet on a 140 foot jump, like, you know, that's the last thing you ever want to see. You build something that gnarly, like you never want to see your friends go down and get hurt. So yeah, just stoked that everyone got through it in one piece. Everyone put together 4 days of practice and then 2 5-minute runs. We only had 2 crashes in one case, so pretty mind-boggling that it went that good. And like I said, comes back to me thanking my grandfather watching over all of us. So I kept seeing butterflies flying around, and I'm like, hey, what's up, Captain? Thanks.
Yeah. R.I.P. Captain Ron.
Yes, sir.
Hey, I'm just gonna piss real quick. Hang on. We'll smash
I'm gonna do the same.
Bit. Yeah.
And we're back.
And that piss was incredible.
Yeah, same.
When you talk about Durham OJ and that thing last year, did you learn from that? Like, was there a bit of learning in that whole process last year?
Yeah, I mean, I know he learned to not follow me. Yeah, just like everybody hits things a little bit differently. And last year he had he had some crazy gearing on his bike to go, like he had a 14 counter when I had a 13. So our RPMs were just completely different. So for him to do that and like get out in one piece, it was like, okay, like this year I want to make the course, like update the course and do all these changes, but I do want it to be as safe as possible. And to be honest with you, when you're building jumps like that, like nothing's safe. Like shit can go wrong, and that's just the way the cookie crumbles, you know. It's not if it happens, it's when. So yeah, just learning how to like make everything as safe as possible, like round some stuff. But again, like that stuff happens, and it's all just, you know, split-second decisions and whatever. So I think just this year, the biggest thing I learned was like at the riders meetings, like, look guys, you haven't seen the course yet. Once you get there, like, it is going to be very, very overwhelming, but let's take it slow. Let's break everything down. Let's hit some of the features we hit last year first, you know. And it's crazy that we go down there and like the moon booter and the tree jump are our warm-up jumps. That's like 2 of the biggest jumps last year, and that's what we're warming up on. But yeah, just to take it slow and just like everyone, you know, you tell them like, yeah, you got 4 days of practice and then the comp, and people are like, I don't need to be there for 4 days, until they got there and saw the course, and they're like, okay, like I get it now, you know. There's so much going on. So just how to slow it down for everyone and make everyone feel as comfortable as possible, as like, you know, like not feeling pressured into anything. And that was the biggest thing too, that I told everyone, like, this isn't an X-Fighters run. Like, if you don't hit that jump, you're not going to get scored well. Like, if you don't hit that jump, figure out how to like hit 2 more that make it super creative. You know what I mean? So just learning the process of, you know, how everyone's different and getting everyone acclimated, but taking it slow and just slowly getting through it as a whole together, and not like, you know, like me and me and Axel and Colby and Josh, like, we get excited and, like, you know, we hit one thing and we're like, oh, let's go to the next one, go to the next one, go to the next one. And with that many riders, that many filmers, and trying to create that content, like, we can't just be bouncing around because it's just, you know, utter chaos. You know what I mean? Especially with jumps going in multiple directions. 100% just from a safety standpoint, like, we got to look out for each other. We got to look alive. We got to stick to one thing. Like, let's get these sessions, like, let's all train a jump and get the sickest clips, like, all training. Like Axel, like, do your turn up your way. Tom P, do your upside down whip. I'll do the turn up the opposite way, and then Colby does an oppo whip. Like, you know, just shit like that, and sticking together and taking it slow was the biggest thing I learned. And just keeping everyone as safe as possible in an unsafe environment, to say the least.
Yeah, that's such a good way to put it. Well, yeah, congrats on that, bro. We'll put the imagination stuff to bed before we end. I want to ask you some other shit. What else is going on? Now that this is done and you fucking killed it and you certified, you're the Travis Rice of two wheels now. What else is going on?
I've been working on a documentary film.
It's
for 805 and Fast House, and got I got pretty much an hour-long film that'll be coming out sooner than later. Just finishing that stuff up. I've basically been working on it since Thanksgiving last year, so super stoked for people to see that. Just a little look into my life and my family and our two-wheel life of you know, 3 generations, and ultimately it's a story of, you know, the bond between a father and son, and 3 generations of it. So super cool, like, interviews from my dad and my grandpa, and Twitch and Kenny from Fast House, and Steve and Matto, and just all the people that have helped me get to where I'm at. So been working really hard on that should be coming out soon. And just ultimately trying to get my foot in other doors. Kenny from Fast House had got me my SAG card a few years ago, and ultimately, like, did a few jobs but got hurt and didn't really get to do stuff for a while. So just trying to get my foot back in that door, and just try to take the opportunities as they come. And ultimately, I know what I'm doing right now is not going to last forever. So just trying to create something for the future, you know, like, you know, I'm not getting any younger. I just turned 30. So, you know, creating a family, and, just trying to take it day by day, man. I've always been like that. Like, people have always asked me, like, what's next? What's after riding? What's this? What's that? And I try to tend to not look too far ahead and just focus on, you know, your task at hand and live in the moment. So, just doing that. And then obviously got some events coming up. There's a $50,000 whip contest coming up here soon. I'm kind of on the fence if I want to ride or not. I would love to, but I'm pretty smoked after my travel grind, and I'm going to be working on a job, like, for a week leading up to that. So, we'll see. I got that. And then, you know, obviously Day in the Dirt's coming up. Love Day in the Dirt. It's my favorite event of the year. Just family and friends and good times. And then, man, we'll see. I got a few other projects that I've been cooking up in my head for a while, and kind of, like, you know, I still want to continue grinding on the imagination stuff and keep that going, but have a few other projects that I've pitched to Red Bull and really want to make happen. So some of that, and just, dude, enjoying it, man. I've been, especially since I got hurt, I've been nonstop, like nonstop. And you know, this year, and maybe it's me getting older and being more mature, but at the beginning of this year, I was working really hard on my film, my documentary film, and you know, I was kind of, like, a bit burnt out, and I went to Danimals with Colby, and I was filming with him and filming for his new movie, and I got blown by, like, a big gust of wind on a 250-foot double at Danimals, and the wind grabbed me. I slammed hard, man, and, you know, I have a tendency to get knocked out pretty easily, and I think there's something to be said about the new Bell helmet that I didn't knock out when I hit the ground that fast. But I think it's the ones when you don't knock out that get you the worst. And I haven't, you know, gone on record with this, but it did me dirty, man. For like 2 months after that, I had a beating headache. My mind was all over the place, man. And like, dude, just this day and age, like mental health is so important. And it was hard on me, man. It was super hard on me. Like I was trying to just be my normal self and thoughts flying in my head. And I took like 3 months off the bike and just worked on this film and whatever. And I got to the point where I was getting eager to get back on the bike, right? I wanted to ride. I was like, that's what makes me happy. So I was like, okay, it's time. I want to get back on and I want to just start riding, you know? No, don't have to go hit ramps. I just want to go ride, you know? And unfortunately, right when that happened, right when I told myself I wanted to get back on, I got the call that my grandpa wasn't doing too well. And I basically, the day after Paula National, I took off and was driving home, and I got halfway home. And my dad called me and told me that my grandpa didn't make it, and it ate me up, dude. It ate me up. And literally an hour after my dad called me, I wasn't even home yet, I get the email from X Games that X Games is happening in 3 weeks. And how I had to just channel that energy and like obviously go home and grieve with my family, but to then turn around and be like, now I can't just go ride. Like I have to go risk my life in 2 weeks, you know? So I spent a week with my family, and then I turned around and just dove in head first back to hitting ramps and hitting the quarter. And like, you know, like I wasn't enjoying it, you know? I bottled up so much. I put so much in the back of my mind, and literally like I was here, you know, being present, riding and whatever, riding the ramp and doing that. But like I was here riding, but my head was here, you know? And until about 4 days before X Games, I finally like pulled it together, you know, and was like, all right, like focus on the task at hand and whatever. I did X Games and I got through it, and I did well. I wanted to do better, just obviously for my grandpa. But dude, it was so hard, like bottling up so much energy, so much emotion. And like, I don't know if people probably didn't know, but when I landed off that last jump in the quarter pipe and like almost landed on the bricks, and you know, there's so much going through my mind. Like I was the last dude to go, and I'm just thinking, like sitting there with my head on the bars, like talking to my grandpa, you know, like, and it just almost killed myself on that last jump. And then I landed and I just rode off into the hills, and it just all hit me, dude. I just broke down. Like it just let it out, you know? And just the fact that I was able to bottle that much emotion up and get through it and whatnot was good. But like I left and I was like, I wasn't satisfied. It just wasn't, I don't know, didn't seem fun. So I just kind of took a leap of faith, and I've like kind of been vulnerable and open to just talking to someone. And I've been working with this guy, Troy Eckert. He actually started Volcom, and now he's done a lot of stuff with just in business and athletes and all this stuff. And he's now more or less like a life coach. So I've been working with him once a week, and just, you know, being open to being vulnerable and talking to somebody and just letting it out. And I think that helps so incredibly much. And you know, I was able to take myself out of like the heart of everything and like be like, take a step back and realize how far I've came and you know, what I'm doing currently and all this stuff. So it just made me slow down and appreciate things a lot more. Yeah. And dude, that was like such a blessing for me to be able to refocus my energy. And then obviously had to take off to go, you know, be in South Carolina for a month before I went to Kansas. So to be able to do that and just kind of focus on those things that were bugging me was huge, and face them head on. So I think, you know, for anybody out there struggling, like it helps to talk to somebody. So don't be afraid to open your mind to these things, because everyone deals with something in one way or another, and you know, it's all about how you overcome those things. So yeah, man, that's been a huge blessing to me to be able to do that, and just, you know, focus on all the good. And like, you know, like there's things that we're humans, man. Like there's things that you categorize as good and bad in your head, but it's not necessarily good or bad. It's just all information that your body's telling you. So it's just all how you react and deal with things and figure out how to work through things. So yeah, man, that's been a huge blessing. So that's literally at the top of my list of before anything, is just staying on top of my mental health and staying focused and slowing things down and appreciating things, you know? So that's been a huge thing that I've been into lately, and just trying to keep going on that. And I think ultimately when you do that and doing all these things off the bike, it translates to when you're on the bike.
Yeah, man, I remember I actually woke up and your Instagram post was the first thing that I saw. Fuck, man, I was like, yeah, really fucking, it hurt to see that, like, because I knew how you'd feel, you know, like, because he was so fucking important to your life and your racing, and just still such like a active part of your life, and like the reason why you did a lot of stuff too, you know, like you've always been the kind of guy that you aren't really a dude that kind of gets joy from doing shit for yourself. I don't think. I feel like you're the kind of person that gets more joy for doing things for people, and it always seemed like you would want to do things for your dad and for your grandpa. It's like you rode for those guys in a way, and like, yeah, that was definitely one thing that went through my head when I saw that post. I was like, fuck, man, that's really sucks for Tyler, in the sense of like that's one of his fucking reasons to do this shit.
Yeah, 100%. I wouldn't be in this position if it wasn't for him. So I think the biggest thing that ate me up was like I just wanted to tell him my goodbyes, and I didn't get to. But the way I look at it, he didn't want me to see him struggling. He knew I was coming, and he let go, and it was cool. Like, you know, the last thing that goes is someone's hearing, and they can still hear you, and they're still there. So of course he wasn't breathing anymore, but he could still hear me. I got to talk to him for a little bit and tell him my goodbyes. And the one thing that I worked so hard on this video, I really wanted him to see this video, this documentary, because I felt like it would have been like give him a little more life to live, of like just, you know, seeing my life in film, you know. But ultimately he didn't get to see it, but he lived it. So it's, exactly. He will see it. He'll continue to see it, and he saw it. So that's all good, man. It is what it is. And just stoked to be, you know, in the position I am, and be, you know, my only goal is like, how could you give back to them for what they've done for me? And you really can't, you physically can't, no dollar amount, no nothing, you can, but the only thing I can do is make them proud. And I think I've done that. So I'm just going to continue to keep going and do it, you know, do things how he would want. And he was a bad dude. They called him Captain Ron for a reason. He was captain of the ship, and he was good at business, and you know, he didn't take no shit. So I think I have a good balance of that and the chill side of my dad. So man, it's all good. Just stoked that everyone has got the time they did with him, you know, like everyone, when he went out, everyone had an outpouring of people hitting me up, and just how stoked they were to have met him, and the time that they had with him. So man, it's all good, and time will heal all. But it was tough for sure. It was a tough time, but just, dude, ultimately to overcome that, and then go into the craziest week on set or the craziest month on set that I've had, and like crazy experiences. Like the last 6 weeks of my life has been insane. I've been on the road for 44 days, and like this has been the most craziest 2 months of my life, hands down. And I've done a lot of shit. So, man, just stoked to get through it together. Like, you know, my grandpa was riding on my shoulder the whole time. So, man, stoked for the future, see what the future holds, and just taking it one step at a time, little by little, baby.
Well, man, you're right. Like, I remember, I mean, it's definitely slowed down a lot for me here. Like, I still send it with work, but it's like I come to the same room every day to do it. And you can kind of build a routine, and then that almost lets you work a little bit harder in a sense, because it's just so, like, it's such a process, and the process gets so dialed in. But I mean, I remember like it being a real struggle when I was living over there and doing the crazy shit that we used to do, like 21-day road trips, like 14 days with 3 hours sleep a night. And then, you know, like one day you'd wake up in Alaska, and then the next day you're in San Francisco, and then you spend 3 days in San Francisco, and then you've got to go to Germany, like, and then it's so fucking dope, and it's such a crazy experience. But then you're right, like there is this fucking come down when you get home, and you feel like if you're not doing it, you're wasting your fucking life, even though you're just like having some normal person downtime. Like just that fucks with your head. And then you add in like a gnarly concussion, and like, dude, concussions can give you depression, like straight up fucking depression.
100%.
And, you know, like, so you add in this, like, come down of, you know, because that's what they say, like, living the high life. Like, it is the fucking high life, dude. Like, getting to travel and getting to do this crazy shit and crazy experiences and be around all these epic people. And then you just come home and sit on your couch and it just feels like fucking empty, eh? And then you add in, you know, the shit that comes from a head knock. Like, it isn't hard to see how you can get into, like, a really bad place and then you lose a family member. Like, and I'm so fucking glad that you would go and talk to somebody, dude, because that shit helps. Like, I've had a few cases in my life where I've reached out to therapists and, you know, you do a few sessions to try and, you know, get shit back on track. Like, there is absolutely no shame in that in any form.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, you know, I've never ever put myself in that position to, like, open up to somebody. I usually tend to just bottle stuff up, and I'm really good at overcoming things and kind of, you know, working through them. But this time it just seemed different than all the other ones. And dude, I've had in the last, I mean, up to this last concussion, it's been 3.5 years. I've had 3 really gnarly concussions, you know, and that shit tends to add up, you know? So it's all part of it, but it's just, I think, little things of, like, figuring out, like, self-care and the importance of mental health, and, like, realizing all those things is the first step, and being vulnerable to be open, you know. And there's times where you're laughing and then you're crying and whatever, but it's just, like, it's so helpful to get that out. So yeah, man, just, again, anybody at home dealing with it, don't be afraid to reach out, because you're not the only one. You're definitely not alone. And mental health in this day and age is, like, realer than ever because of the times and COVID and all the things that we're dealing with. Like, it ain't easy. Life ain't easy, but, you know, it's all how you can deal with that uneasy life and overcome it and, you know, channel it into something good. So
yeah. And man, there's definitely something to be said for just prioritizing, like, your own, like, you call it mental health, call it anything. Like, you know, I've got these aspects, like, I call them, like, these verticals in my life. I got these boxes that just kind of have to get ticked every single day. One of them's reading, one of them's meditation, one of them is hard work, and then another one is hard training, and then it's family and friends. And it's like, I have to fit that shit into my day, and it's 5 things that I've picked. And man, like, I can't go a couple days without going to the gym and doing jiu-jitsu. I have to ride on the weekend with my boys. I have to read. I have to do and then I have to work hard as fuck. And, like, it makes a super, super busy life. Like, I don't have that much downtime, but what comes with having no downtime is, like, no downtime to let fucking bullshit into your head, you know? And it's all just this constant positivity and momentum that you're, like, working towards, you know, these kind of goals and shit that's bigger than yourself. And I feel like that stuff helps so much. And, like, the tendency that you have when you do start feeling shitty is to, like, stop pinning it at all the things that you've got in your life, and you sit and you reflect more, and you kind of, like, you end up kind of living in it and swimming in it a little bit, you know? It's just, like, it's so key to just, like, keep going with, like, those little things that, you know, give back to you.
For sure. Absolutely. Yeah, just almost just taking a step back and yeah, just living in the moment. Like, don't let, you know, like I said, there's everything's information, like, good and bad, and, like, dude, life's not perfect. Everyone deals with struggles every day and different things, but it's not all good or bad, you know? Like, of course we're gonna have, like, bad days, but it's just all information and how you can learn to handle those bad days and you know, get through them, and it's just gonna make those good days that much better.
Yeah, I'm hearing you. So, what else, man? Anything else to cover off on? What else you been into at the moment? You probably haven't really had a chance to do shit.
I just went bow hunting with Adam out there in E3. Sick. That was pretty fun. It's cool to shoot a bunch of guns. That was super fun. Yeah, I've been mountain biking a bunch. Obviously, just same grind, but just enjoying my time. I've met an amazing girlfriend that I have now, and she's been a huge blessing, just like my best friend. So just stoked on that, and yeah, man, just living life, dude. It's all it's about. I know I tend to get so consumed in moto, but I like to try and learn other things, and I love mountain biking, I love snowboarding in the winter, and I was able to do that a little bit last winter, not as much as I wanted, but just cruising, man. That's the thing, like I said, it's a double-edged sword. You do something that gnarly and that much adrenaline in 1 week, and then you come back and you're like, oh, what's next, and it's like, fuck it, nothing. I'm just chilling. I'm trying to go on vacation. I got a few things, but I'm just taking it as it comes. I do, obviously I have on my list of things to do, I have a few things like with the movie and all that, but yeah, man, just kind of cruising right now. Just literally, like I said, I got home this morning. Today's the first day at home. I haven't even slept in my bed yet. And it took everything I had in me to not fall asleep in the corner pocket of my couch before I came to do this. So, yeah, man, I'm just stoked to be doing this when it's fresh in my mind, and just, still on the come down of the week or the 6 weeks that I just had. So, yeah, man, just other than that, like, try to focus on, gearing up for some other projects and just enjoy that time off, like going snowboarding and hanging with my friends and traveling a little bit. Like, it's funny, I've never, like, and I'm going to say this and people are going to be like, oh, what do you mean? But like, I've never physically been on vacation. Like once when I was 12 on a cruise with my grandma and grandpa, but my life is a vacation, right? Like, I go all these rad places and I get to see the world, and I'm going there to do a thing, though, to do my craft, right? Yeah. I'm going there to ride. I'm not going there to kick my feet up and just chill and not have an agenda. So that's like at the top of my list of things to do. Take my girlfriend, go somewhere rad, kick my feet up and just chill for a minute. And then I'm sure once I do that and I have a week of kicking my feet up in the sand somewhere, I'm gonna be fired up to get back and get riding. So winter's coming, man. I'm psyched to do some free riding, do some traveling, hopefully we get some good rain out here this winter. And yeah, dude, I haven't been able to go to the hills too much lately. Just last few years have been pretty shitty for rain, and only had a couple good days. And then the last winter that we had was really good. I was hurt, so I was fucking in physical therapy, just listening to it rain, just beating my head off the wall, but made me train that much harder because I was so psyched to get back on. So yeah, man, just taking it day by day. I'm sure I always tell myself I'm gonna chill, and then shit just pops up left and right. So yeah, it's cruising. It's wedding season, few weddings, homies weddings coming up, and yeah, man, just fucking chilling. That's it. Just enjoying an 805.
Fucking oath, get in there, piss in the punch and carry on.
Yep. That's what it's all about, man. Team never give up. We're going to keep going. Just take it day by day. And yeah, man, just stoked to be here. Stoked to be doing this. Stoked to be talking to my homie again from afar. And you're going to have to get your ass over here before you know it.
I'm working on it, bro. I'm working on it. Shit ain't easy at the moment. I
know. And Australia is gnarly, huh? The whole, I guess it's not as bad in Queensland, but the lockdowns have been pretty hectic. Hey, can we talk about Jacko in quarantine? Please, just somebody give that dude a TV show. Straight up, give him a TV show. That was the most entertaining 2 weeks. I know, Jacko, if you're listening, that probably sucked for you, but the fact that everyone was able to send you all these things and you made the funniest videos out of it, you made the absolute best out of quarantine. So dude, that shit was so fun to watch. Like, obviously they were out here for X Games, and just the fact that, like, the world we're living in, they get to come, get a visa exemption to get over here and do it, and then have to go back and pay for a hotel for 2 weeks, and it's like, is it really worth it? But man, the content that came from that dude's Instagram stories was worth it for sure. So, yeah, man, that was classic. And, yeah, again, I have a bunch of Aussie homies, and I'm really hoping that we can get them over here for 3.0, and who knows, man? Who knows what the future holds? I know this logistically is a nightmare, and there's a big budget and a lot of overhead, but I think with just the traction that we gained off of it, it'd be hard not to do it again. So I'm just hoping for the best and keep adding, keep building on it, and eventually I'd love to take it anywhere around the world. So we'll see, man. With some hard work, hopefully we can make it happen. No dreams too big.
Nah, it'll happen. Dude, Jacko's fucking Manscaped tattoo gun.
I know. Oh, man. It's classic. You imagine getting, like, if his, like, dick pictures underneath the frames on the walls, you, like, hung them up and then put the pictures back over, like... Oh, the maids that freaking cleaned that room after the 2 weeks. Holy moly. You imagine, like, he probably had to get, like, at least 2 more OGO bags just to completely fill all the shit.
What did he do with all the shit?
I don't know, man. Oh, it's funny. He was like putting like dildos in the vent and stuff. Like, oh my gosh, mind-boggling. So classic, but man. Yeah, man, stoked. Funny. Thanks again for having me. Hope to see you soon, and I hope everyone enjoyed the listen, man. I'm speaking from my heart, and stoked to be in the position that I am, to be able to create rad stuff like this and give back to the community that I love so much. And yeah, man, stoked to be here, stoked to be talking about it, stoked to be that dude right now. I mean, you could say, compare me to Travis Rice, which I think is super far-fetched. That dude is like not real. He's like God, but I mean, I'll take it, I guess. There's not really anybody really doing that for the moto. It's like you're bred to hate your competitor and beat your competitor. So I don't like that. Let's go have fun. We all ride dirt bikes for a reason. That's because it's fun. So let's do it together. Create rad shit.
Nah, proud friend over here, bro. You, the work that you guys put in, the work that Steve put in, the work that Wes and the crew put in, Jason Baker, like, dude, I want to get him, like, I want to fly him to California, like, just to get him to explain the shit that goes into it.
He'll be here next week. Rebuilding the KTM test track. So if you wanted to take a night and try to get him on, that would be insane, because that dude is so knowledgeable, and he's second to none at what he does. And like, again, like, I know you touched on it, but I just want to, Steve Shearer, Eric Doomer, all the people from Red Bull that have backed me and believed in this vision and worked so tirelessly on this. Like, thank you guys. Thank you, Jason and his crew, for making this dream a reality. Thank you, Wes and the media crew. Like, everything, nothing goes unnoticed. Thanks to the ops crew that are sending out call sheets every day. The branding crew, like, Eric Pernard and Mickey helping with the competition format, and the judges, my peers, the riders, my physical therapist, my mechanic, Rob, like, all my friends that just lent a hand to help. Like, dude, this is the most massive team effort, and just know that each and every one of you, none of this goes unnoticed. And like, I wouldn't be able to pull this off if it wasn't for such a solid team and foundation behind me. So I love you guys. Thank you so much. And man, stoked for the future.
Nah, for sure, dude. Well, love you, doggy. Get some rest, and I'll talk to you soon. I appreciate it, man. Too. I know you must be fucking cooked, but I'm stoked we got to get it done.
All good. I'm stoked to do it, man. It's cool. I needed to do it before I go zombie mode on the couch for a week. I needed to do it while it's still fresh. So, all good. Thanks for having me, and hope y'all enjoyed. Hey, quick crazy story before I let you go. And obviously this isn't going in there.
If you enjoyed this content, please like and subscribe. And to listen to the full 3-hour podcast, search Gypsy Tales in your favorite podcast platform or click the link in the description below. Gypsy Gang.